Why are we getting so many dropped frames? Well, guess I can't fix that now. Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another live stream recording of Hearthstone. Today is Wednesday, May 1st, the end of the month has happened. I ended on the Americas account with a Guardian's chest of rank 13, and last time we opened the chest this high, it didn't seem like there was too much of a difference really in the rewards. A couple of gold cards, the season card back, and 15 dust is not really worth a lot. A gold rare. I didn't even get a pack here. So maybe you have to get up to rank 1 or higher to get better deals. I am at rank 17 though, so at least I'm not thrown down to all the rank 20 random people. Also, because it's the end of the month, we can kind of just toss out all of our pre-built accounts, and let's see if they'll be a little bit better now. See, we have some overlap here with Hunter, so if I just re-roll this, that should work pretty well. Alright. So before we do anything else, let's just say goodbye to all the custom ones. Custom warrior, custom shaman, custom rogue. And the reason why we're doing this is because the expansion came out last month, or for most of last month at least, and thus Hearthstone, in its new system to recommend you the best deck you can possibly build, wouldn't have had a lot of statistics, a lot of information to build decks that were actually helpful. So I'm hoping if we just do this and then click the complete my deck button here, that we will now have much better, higher win ratio decks than what we had by last month. I wouldn't be surprised though if there actually isn't too much of a difference here. I mean, playing Harrison Jones seems to be pretty standard for many years. Playing Spellbreaker, playing the Owl. Like, the Owl came out, I believe, when the game originally came out, and still people are playing it. So there was no grand, amazing new strategy on that one. But that might also just be a reflection of how Warrior is balanced right now, and Warrior may just not be a high winner. Looks like for the Shaman deck, they are going with Overload and Murlocs in a mixed fashion with a Bloodlust spell too. So, okay, that seems to be pretty standard. When we looked at the Rise of the Shadows cards though, there really wasn't a lot of cards that seemed like they would overwhelm the pre-existing cards and be better. For the rogue here, it looks like we're just doing our standard combo cards with the rogue. Paladin was certainly the deck that won more than anything else. last month, so I wouldn't expect to see Paladin become a lot worse in its win ratios. In all fairness, if I looked at my Hearthstone deck tracker app, a lot of those old decks very possibly only were played a few times. This one looks like it's more of a mech magnetic Paladin deck. Interesting. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if I only played Priest or Mage a handful of times in the entirety of the month. Having 3 different accounts means you're not spending as much time on any one account with any one deck. That being said, even if I only was playing on the Americas account, that really wouldn't mean I would spend 3 times as much time on it. In all honesty, I would just end these streams faster. For the live stream, it seems like my internet's not going through very good today, according to OBS. Maybe OBS is totally wrong about that. Apologies. I don't know what could be the reason for that, and I don't want to get into what could easily be the rest of the day trying to figure out why my internet is being slow, when more than likely my internet is just being slow because of something I can't control, like the internet service provider is doing something. So for the weekend, well, not the weekend, for yesterday, I started recording my first game for the Halloween month, Edna and Harvey The Breakout. It's a point-and-click adventure game. It's pretty old. In fact, it's right on the verge of getting a 10-year anniversary. So it's got like trouble running. It's crashed once, which is crazy for a point-and-click adventure game. Is the mage the last one? No, the priest is the last one. It's a little weird playing as someone who's crazy in an insane asylum, because you're playing as what could only, I assume, be a 16 to 18 year old girl who's crazy, walking around in basically a straitjacket or a medical robe, with her underwear showing every time she walks backwards. That was a huge mistake, I think, quite frankly. It's funny for the first 5 minutes or so of gameplay, but in a point-and-click adventure game that is allegedly 9 hours long, to have half of your actions have the character look behind and show off purple underwear is kind of ridiculous. She should have gotten some pants, stolen some clothes pretty quickly in the game. Epic bosses of Blackrock Mountain. So apparently I'm not going to get to choose to play as the hunter for this tavern brawl. Edna's this crazy 16, 18-year-old. Harvey is this blue stuffed animal that talks to her, one assumes, in her mind. There was the beginning of the game. It took me nearly an hour to get out of a padded room and I had to use a walkthrough. So it went from being like, oh, this is going to be a quick and easy tutorial section to, no, actually this is a nightmare of an experience because you're stuck in a padded room with very little to interact with. So yeah, that was definitely poorly designed. And to get out of the padded room, finally you have to do this flashback that they call tempo morphing, which is a good idea of a name, certainly, to change the tempo of a point-and-click adventure game. And so you do this flashback, and then that lets you finally escape, which would have been fine, certainly, but there's something to complain about even in that, because now it's been probably an hour and a half or longer, and there hasn't been any more tempo morphing. Instead, the game, once I got out of the first 2 puzzles or sections, I was put in a very wide open world-esque point-and-click adventure section, and I'm just wandering around talking to about 10 different people that I feel you're going to have to completely have conversations with. And I'm just picking up random items that I'm probably going to use later on. The inventory has about 5 items per inventory. There's 5 spots for an inventory item in the inventory, and then I would say at least 6 if not 7 rows. So you're talking a significantly large amount of inventory spots, and it's over halfway full already because I've just picked up a huge amount of extra items that haven't been explained yet. 1 damage to all other minions. So yeah, it's also a didactic point-and-click adventure, so it has some weirdness of being an old point-and-click adventure. In particular, it has some weirdness of being translated from German to English. It has some weirdness we know that we'll have from it being a what am I trying to say here? It being a didactic game in the sense that it will end on a sour note. It just occurred to me, like, can I do this? I think I can get away with this. Let's go here and then look on network and see if there's... Yeah, I just opened up the task manager, and yeah, you can on Windows 10 look by the amount of data transferring from the task manager, and there's kind of nothing here that should be slowing anything down or messing it up. So yeah, draw 2 cards, deal damage. Okay. Just go ahead and kill this, and do this, and do this. I almost played the wrong Edna and Harvey game because there's an Edna and Harvey's New Eyes, or something like that, that's the sequel to the game, and oddly there's DLC for that. That's the developer's commentary for the game, but I don't think being even a few hours into the first game that I would really care about it enough to get developer's commentary. There was developer's commentary on some of the earlier Deponia games, and that final Deponia game, that last one I played, was so bad I've no way in the world I'd sit through the dev commentary. In fact, in all realisticness, I really don't have time to go through the dev commentary in most games. I liked it in like BioShock, where it really would have made sense, or Portal, where it makes a lot of sense, but that's about it. I probably have too many things installed, so after I finish and then Harvey, I probably need to start covering Doom, because that is my intention, is to go through quickly and do spotlights of the try to do spotlights of the old Dooms, Ultimate Doom and Final Doom, or whatever versions of Doom are available, and then skip over to the remaster of Doom and play that. Man, I'm stumbling over my words today. I'm not awake enough, apparently. I don't pay a lot of attention to vocal exercises and preparations and such, but there probably is something. Ideally, I imagine a lot of people would tell me to drink coffee, like drink an entire cup of hot coffee in the morning to make sure you're wide awake and buzzed, but I hate drinking. I don't like the taste of coffee, and I would hate to drink anything that just became the new drug of choice. This lives into next. There we go. Living bomb. And draw 2 cards and gain 4 armor. And just hold on to this final attack. But yeah, vocal exercises probably wouldn't be terrible, but I don't think that they would help too much. There's this home remedy called throat coat that is like honey and lemon and things like that that you're supposed to drink to not wear out your voice. What? Why did it not do 5 damage to all enemies? That doesn't make any sense. I can't even look into it. I either misread that terribly or it played wrong. Alright, well, let's see. Just gonna quickly do this to make sure that it will work. And guess we could stop that. Just try and save some space. Stop the song playlists, which is a minimal and unimportant action for bandwidth. And I suppose we should just start covering the news. It'll be interesting to see throughout this week to once again kind of reevaluate whether the whether Japanese Golden Week is a boom or a bust for Japanese games. I know Gamatsu is not putting out a lot, certainly, but that doesn't mean that it probably is a bust, quite frankly. Usually that means everybody's taken off, so it'd be, while it might be considered lucky to announce a game during Golden Week, I think that is heavily counteracted by the fact that none of the news agencies and none of the publishing and advertising agencies would really be working during this week, which is Japanese Golden Week. Let's see. Yeah, I guess I could have tried something like that, but taste the flames of Sophia. You will perish in flames. This is one of those bad tavern brawls because it's just gonna take forever. There's not specifically anything better about either one of these guys. They just kind of both suck because they have so much high health. Yes, so we're not gonna have a lot of. You would think we're not gonna have a lot of news, but actually there is a pretty decent amount of news today. I don't know how long we're gonna go on this. Geez, quite frankly, I don't think I can keep Gamatsu's night mode on, because then it doesn't look like Gamatsu to me long enough. Gamatsu, even though it is Golden Week, has a story here. Epic Games has acquired the Rocket League developer Psyonix. Rocket League's leaving Steam, but will continue to be supported for existing owners. So now this is not even exclusives for new games. This is straight up an example of buying games and buying companies and games and having them be removed from where they were listed before. I don't think that you could really claim any legality or illegality to this, but it seems like it's probably fair in the U.S. government. But it is certainly incredibly slimy in this instance, because this is Rocket League is a game that only survives by its player base. You've literally just said no new players on Steam are going to ever be added to this multiplayer only game. All new players are going to have to play going to have to go to the Epic Store and buy the game there. Now, I could also make the argument that Rocket League is, for the most part, dead at this point. Had this been an acquisition of Rocket League when in its heyday, when it first came out, that would be slightly different. But yeah, there's not a lot of new Rocket League players. Rocket League also was on Xbox and PS4 and Switch, and with the exception of PlayStation 4, there is cross-play between all platforms, so I don't see a real reason why current existing owners of Rocket League on Steam wouldn't be able to play with people who bought the game on the Epic Store. But this is just going to be a constant trickling effect of less and less people, less and less new players to replace people who have gotten tired of it. Rocket League also has had a history of being a little greedy, so it's kind of like the greedy company Epic has purchased the greedy company Psyonix, but yeah, Rocket League had a lot of skins that they started pushing and selling, and they really haven't even begun to think about adding more play styles or more levels or anything that would be substantial. It's much more likely that a Rocket League 2 would come out than Rocket League would get a major content update. But this is just like more of the sleaziness of Tim Sweeney and Epic in general, is like that they've made all this money with Fortnite, basically stealing the idea of PUBG, and then with Fortnite also stealing a lot of other content, dance moves and such, from people. And now they're trying to steal players away. And one thing that occurred to me about the Epic Store exclusivity, I would not be surprised 100% if this was a retroactive plan built around Borderlands 3's exclusivity. I would not be surprised if part of the negotiation for every single game that came to the Epic Store, whether it was an exclusive or not, was part of that conversation was the fact that they were saying, we've got, you sign this NDA, but we're going to tell you we actually have Borderlands 3, and thus we're going to become the biggest store ever because of Borderlands 3. I would not even be surprised, and this is just a tinfoil hat theory at the moment, if all of the Epic Store is in part an effort to help Gearbox and 2K try to negotiate a better cut for Borderlands 3. And I would not be surprised if that tinfoil hat theory, or any of these theories are true, once Borderlands 3 comes out, that we will never see another big AAA game as an exclusive on the Epic Store. I think they're probably out of money, and they were doing this big push, and buying Psyonix is another big push. There's definitely a danger of Epic just investing and spending money, and then 2-3 years down the road having no money and selling everything off again or going bankrupt, particularly since it's not likely that there will be a Fortnite 2 that comes out that's super popular. It's not likely that a Rocket League 2 would come out and it would be super popular. I think this guy's just screwing with me. So yeah, it's another one of those stories that is certainly going to irritate people who have 1,000+ games on Steam, and I guess I could run to buy Rocket League, but consistently I've run into the problem with Rocket League that it was a multiplayer mostly focused game, and by the time I even started to think about playing it, it was already out of popularity. So there was never really a good opportunity to play it. And Rocket League is a great example of a game that I'm almost certainly people would have told me or asked me to play. And if I was a big streamer with infinite money or getting games for free, I almost certainly would have played it for a little bit to get the views. That being said, if we were to try to look up what rank Rocket League is on Twitch right now, it's probably not in the top 10. Moving on, we have a game on Steam here called Strangers of the Power 3. This looks like a slightly better made game, so it's not probably RPG Maker, but then it's kind of terribly watercolor drawn in its faces when it's doing dialogue. So yeah, this looks like good or slightly better CG here, and then this looks horrible. Let's come over here and play. So yeah, I don't think this succeeds on the visual test. It's $5.94 at a discount, and it's English only, which is kind of funny because I would have thought that it might have been a Chinese product. I wouldn't go as far as to call it a cheap Chinese product. Let's see if this developer has any other games. The Power of 3. Strangers of the Power 3. Yes, there's a Strangers of the Power 2, which if I hover here doesn't have enough reviews, and Strangers of the Power 1, which was rated positively. But I am noticing here that even here, this is more your standard anime drawings of characters, and that looks way better than the quality I saw in the third game. So they're actually backsliding in quality. So yeah, if we're seeing a game series drastically shift over the course of 3 games and go backslide in quality, that's not a series that I'm interested in. And in all fairness, an RPG series in particular, that Strangers of Power 1 is tagged as an RPG maker game, and it does definitely look like that. Let's see what we want to do. Magmatron online. Just in the turn there. Yeah, RPGs. There are a dime a dozen, so that's a problem too. One of the games that I said I was going to put on the follow list, by the way, the furry Shakespearean game, I actually did not put on the follow list because I looked at the developer and it seemed like they were selling basically the exact same game in a non-furry version, and that version of the game wasn't rated very well, so it seemed kind of silly to think about doing that twice. Oh, so I'm just damaging myself every time I play a card. Great. And there we go. So yeah, there's definitely an issue of games being put on the follow list, and then when I do greater research into it, it not really being a worthwhile experience. Alright, so this one has Living Balm on it, and we're gonna see what happens. Or not, we'll just go ahead and do that. Actually, I should have attacked first. Oops. There we go.
Stop distracting me!
Having 1/1 copies of things probably not super helpful, but whatever. Yeah, I'm not sure how much work is really going to go into the follow list cleanup, because I'll probably going to have to spend several hours setting things up, going, alright, these are the ones I really want to consider, and then from that point start recording and start streaming and look at each game, and it'll be a lot of fatigue. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's shorter episodes, if I can get away with shorter episodes. That will be the real question, is if I can get away with that.
I hear your heart beating.
Oh, darn it. Really screwed up there. I did screw up. Next we have a game on Steam called Q&A, a light roasted romance, which is clearly just kind of a dating simulation game. Like a visual novel, I just would call it more focused on conversation, and that's it. Unfortunately, I'd say this art style doesn't seem to be particularly interesting, nor does it seem like you have a choice of who to talk to. It seems like it's 2 people and a robot, and that is it. So this is probably an extremely short experience. It's free, so the price is right, but yeah, I don't think this really is much of a game. And I don't really know what the deal is with putting free games on Steam. It's World of Mouth Indie Games as the developer and publisher, So one assumes that they're trying to build up a relationship in their next game series will probably be for sale for an actual price instead of just free. But until then, I see no reason to put that on the follow list. Well, it's free. I don't. If it's free and it's out there, one could argue, and I probably have argued this in the past, that Steam itself should probably take all the free games and put them in a subcategory that's de-emphasized. All the free-to-play games, put them in their own separate category that's de-emphasized. And to a certain extent, they probably do. When you look at the Steam front page, there's probably not too many free-to-play games or free games on it. It's still very much AAA games, more than anything, are getting announced, at least on the first 2 bars of the Steam front page, which is really all I ever look at. And if you start scrolling down further, you can find a few other things, but not a lot that's different. It is of certain questions, I guess, to ask whether the Steam front page is as important as it might seem, because in my head the Steam front page is probably the most important bit of advertisement that Steam does for any game or promotion. But the Amazon.com front page, for example, I have no idea what that looks like, because I just click on Amazon.com and then immediately type in the search bar for whatever I'm looking at. So yeah, if Valve sends out emails, I've opted out of that, so I don't get any ads like that to promote anything. And not that really that should be Steam's job either, because Steam would be awful if they were offering a service to be the advertiser of games, because they can't even. They're way too libertarian in their perspective of how they run their business to decide which games to preference and which games not to. So you would get emails from Valve, almost certainly emails from Steam, almost certainly, that would be built around the idea of you promoting things that are completely uninteresting to you, or completely awful in quality, right next to AAA games being announced.
My work is paramount.
Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. The Valve Index VR headset starts taking pre-orders May 1st. This got announced. I'm not sure we've covered a story about it yet. It's also supposed to come out with a major title with it as a selling point. I don't think that the Index actually comes with the new controllers, and so there's an argument there that it's still not quite there. I've also heard that it's going to be $1,000. You can see some of these statistics over here. 7+ hours of battery life for the controllers. Oh, they're called the Valve Index controllers, formerly known as the Knuckles. So they do have the controllers now. Meanwhile, this all just kind of builds back to VR though, and the software is not there, so the hardware can be whatever it wants to be. But until there's major software releases that justify a $1,000 piece of hardware, that's asking quite a lot. Compare this to the $250 to $300, maybe even $350 entry point on an Xbox One or a PlayStation PS5 or an Xbox 2, which would be, I guess, the better comparison. So let's say that the minimum you can get into playing with an Xbox 2 or PS5 is going to be $300 to $350. There needs to be traditionally at least 3 AAA games that come out in that first year to promote, to make that worthwhile. At least 3 that people, each individual person wants to actually buy and play. I should have killed that guy instead. Can I do something here? Well, you can do this. With a $1,000 headset, you're talking at least 9, if not 20 VR titles that are totally worth it for the average person to want to buy a $1,000 headset in VR. That's highly unlikely to happen, and they're really only promising 1. Even if you just do assume this is only for rich Saudi princes and the like, rich kids to buy, there's no level of quality in the content to justify buying this headset. Now, a $1,000 piece of equipment for industrial use, medical use, things like that, yeah, I could see people wasting money for that stuff, but that's not something that I think is likely to be immediately adopted either, because you'd still need that $1,000 headset and some collection or suite of softwares for it to make sense.
Work is paramount.
As for the actual headset, this headband looks like it might work fine. I think they've cropped off the top ribbon here to hold over the top of your head, otherwise it would just slide down all the time. It's inside out cameras, so I don't think it needs beacons anymore to do spatial recognition. The earphones look like they're pretty adjustable, but not really great earphones either for $1,000 things. It's not a big set of cans with pads to fully noise isolate yourself, and there's probably a good reason for that, so that you can actually hear people. Looks like it's one moderately thick wire. But yeah, there's things going on. Deal 5 damage. And protect this guy and do this. The bigger issue I think we will want to see is when the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox 2 get announced, will there be any greater adaptation for VR, or is it just going to be a small, unimportant amount of VR support? Just, yes, the PlayStation will support PlayStation VR as was always likely to be the case. Alright, so Natcast corruption. And then do just damage straight. I'm gonna lose unless corruption kills all of these people. Let's see, moving on, GameIndustry.biz has an article, Sega to reduce digital development after rocky performance last year. Operating income from games falls 33.7% to $88 million. Sega, of course, probably don't need to focus too much on the horrible Sonic movie trailer. But because let's be honest, the movie was always going to suck. It was always going to be focused on this imaginary youth demographic that loves Sonic for basically no reason, because I don't think there's a Sonic cartoon airing right now, or a Sonic cartoon that's even aired in the past 5 years. So yeah, this was all obviously, the movie almost certainly was just a cheap way to make money for Sega. What I took away from these articles, though, they are going to try to focus on more IP and new games and less on selling just, I guess, collections and digital things. So bigger games, more recognizable and impactful Sega games. I wouldn't be surprised also if a big loss of their sales is in mobile games, that like cell phone games from Sega Sammy, or even pachinko style games. I wouldn't be surprised if that's part of it too. Next dragon you play costs 2 less. This is interesting because it's cost 2 less.
I wield the power of black.
Yeah. So it's next dragon you play costs 2 less. It's not next dragon you play this turn costs 2 less. Which is interesting. So yeah. In the long run though, without having the Wikipedia of everything Sega Sammy has ever made, there's probably a decent number of there's probably a decently high number of Sega games that they've published that you wouldn't really recognize, and because they don't have that recognized ability, there's probably nothing else that you can they can really monetize on that. What would really, I think, save Sega as a company would probably be an attempt to make new things, like completely new content, completely new IPs. Let go of Sonic, let go of the things of the past, because they've been mediocre at best. Inherently though, it is also worth remembering that Sega's always been very up and down in the quality of their products. You just have to look at the Sonic line of games. That they typically are not really trying to do very good jobs. They're usually trying to do pretty cheap jobs. Let's see, take damage from your cards to upgrade this. Okay.
You cannot hide.
In the turn. Next we have a game on Steam called Precipice, which looks like it's a troll game talking about Cold War tensions. There's all these people in ridiculous hats, like America versus Russia. This game is $9.59 discounted. It is English only, 14 achievements. It looks so much like a troll game though, but then it does also look a little published. So let's see what this other game is. The other game is called Deep Six and is rated very positively. Alright, well, even though this seems like a silly troll game, it might be a decent Cold War tension simulator. There looks like there's a little bit of polish here, so I'll put it on the follow list and give it a slight chance against my better nature. And inherently, the reviews might be troll positive reviews too, so I'll have to be a little careful on that. Let's see. Have you draw a card? So can I do this? Okay, what do I want to do? Now 7/7. Do that.
You cannot hide.
And do that. And then return. I'd like to win since this is like the 4th or 5th time we've done this tavern brawl. Let's see. Okay. We've got enough where we can do this first. Choose a minion, add a copy of it to your hand. Okay. Now, I need 4 attack, 4 armor right now. Not particularly.
I hear your heart. You cannot hide.
Destroy a friendly minion and deal its attack to enemy minions. There you go. Then end the turn. That seems like that will work pretty well. Next we have a game on Steam called Eugenics, which looks like it's a genetics game. Eugenics, of course, being the pseudoscience of trying to improve genetics through breeding for the most part, or selective breeding, or more accurately forced sterilization in most cases, or for proactively forcing people not to breed, which of course that eventually just has such a lack of variety in your gene pool that you all get wiped out by the next version of the flu or the next virus that nobody has an immunity for. It destroys genetic diversity. This seems to be a little simplistic for what they're asking for. $10.49 discounted, English and French. I'll give it a chance. I think I might be a little kinder today than normal. That I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. There we go. If I end up saving everything for the fall list today, that will kind of suck. But that's definitely not going to happen in this next game. We have Emoji Tower Defense, a low effort tower defense game for $8.49 discounted, which is extremely expensive. There's no achievements on this. How anybody thinks this would ever sell is kind of ridiculous. This is another example of, it seems like Valve is more than willing to still let people put pretty low effort games on their storefront. This doesn't seem like it really is in the category of straight up trolling, certainly, but it's extremely low quality, which is the descriptor that I would use to eliminate some of the games. Okay. This. And then this. And then this. And go ahead and do that. Next we have a game on Steam here called 2D Paintball that looks worse than NES football, quite frankly. It's early access. A game that's 2D should not be in early access. They want $11.99 discounted. English only, yeah, not worth considering. I'm holding a dragon, deal 3 damage, and win. Finally. That was a lot of gameplay just to get the stupid the dumb tavern brawl done. This is why in general I don't like these tavern brawls. And again, since I have all the cards, this will just all go into dust. Let's see. Disenchant all of that for 40 dust. And then also I didn't search extra to disenchant the golds here, so this will give me 100 dust, and this will give me 100 dust. There's no reason to have gold versions of the Rise of Shadows cards. There might be a reason to have dust for gold versions of classic cards, but any other version of the cards is kind of unnecessary. Yeah, I can fix that though, so that's not a big problem. I don't think I will be doing anything. Which one was it that... Yeah. Just add another one there. Okay. Yeah, I don't think I'll be doing anything as far as the Hearthstone replay decks. I don't have really enough dust or anything to rebuild those decks or see if there's any big difference. And I am now pretty much on a daily basis checking this to see when this is coming out, and I've given up on promising anything there because it's clearly just going to happen when it happens. So we need to play ranked now that we've gone through the unimportant tavern brawl, and that's taken what feels like 40 minutes. Let's play Custom Hunter and see how this works. Meanwhile, TechRaptor has a article, Rainswept review, Rainswept and interesting. This looks like it's a point-and-click adventure, detective story. They gave it a 6.5 good. Rainswept has an interesting plot, well-written characters, and distinctive visual style, although a few bugs and overly simplistic gameplay do let it down a bit. It's on Steam right now. Pro's unique art style, enthralling story, well-written characters, cons, simplistic gameplay, and a pile of bugs. Frankly, 6.5 is not really good enough to motivate me to play a game. That being said, when we come over to the Steam store, it's rated positively with 11 reviews, which is not enough reviews to sway me one way or the other, but it does look interesting enough to put it on the follow list. It is one of these games though that is $11.99 for a point-and-click adventure, when it ideally I'd want to pay $5.99 for something like this, particularly since you don't know in point-and-click adventures ever if it's going to be one of the ones that is pretty easy to figure out and pretty good to play, or more often than not a game full of incredibly large amounts of moon logic where only the creator of the game and no one else would ever possibly guess the intention of the solution to puzzles. Edna and Harvey, The Breakout, is certainly a similar experience where one of the puzzles requires to do quite a lot of extra stuff when you really wouldn't have expected it to need to do all that extra stuff. Just gonna play this for later and hope this works. this, play this, we do this, and then we hit this guy, and this guy, and we should be alright. Now, next turn we can play this on him. Next we have a game on Steam called Grunt 1914. This looks like a low effort asset flip first person shooter. Seems like it jumps over through several time frames because there's a lot of variety in the guns. It's early access, discounted for $11.99. Multiplayer only, so I wouldn't want to play it anyways, even if I thought it was a good game. So of course that's not going to be considered any further. I already found a way to kill it. Darn it. It seems like that is almost always the case. Though. Because it just seems like that always happens. Rush. Next we have a game called Bee Rabbit, which looks like it's just a platformer. The animation doesn't look terrible, but it is just looks like a physics game more than even a platforming game. Yeah, it's a physics game. It's not a platforming game at all, which is weird. 59 cents discounted, not terrible. But you can tell it's an achievement game because all the achievements have numbers on them. This reminds me of the rabbit for the new movie for The Secret Life of Pets. So maybe they're trying to tie into that. And they've named their developer and publisher the exact same name of the game, which means they're very much not interested in ever doing business under that title again. I think that's probably a red flag that Steam should look at, quite frankly. By default it should just be, no, you cannot name your game the exact same name as your company, the exact same name as your as your publisher. All three of these things, well, at least two of these things need to be different. I don't mind if you're an indie publisher and you name your company and your publishing company the same. That's doesn't affect the consumer in any way, really. Let's see. This guy has rush, so I can do that and that. And then that. TechRaptor has this weird article. Assault Android Cactus Plus released on Steam. Price to rise after sale. Frankly, this new concept of we're releasing our game and the price is going up after the sale is a sleazy way of doing things. From these two pictures that I see, let's see, doesn't really interest me. We can go look at the Steam page and see if there's maybe something more there that would interest me. Let's see. I think we can do this if we're just careful enough. We do this and then do this, and then yeah, that's enough to win. So we're up to rank 16 now. Need to play 21 more hunter cards. So this game is on Steam. Assault Android Cactus Plus apparently is the new name. It looks like it is a bullet hell shooter. It's rated overwhelmingly positive with a lot of reviews, which is surprising. I guess the wisdom of the crowd is kind of win me over on this one. Actually, it deserves a follow at least. When you have hundreds of people, I think that's what I'm seeing. 801. I can't read it. My screen's too far away from me. Seems like a lot of reviews. Does that mean I want to buy it now, though, at 50% off? No. In no way. Is it single player only, too? So there is no multiplayer experience. It kind of felt like it would be. Alright, well, Steam's own page sold me on this a little bit more once I see it in action. TechRaptor, I guess, just did a bad job of being an advertisement there by choosing the two blandest looking screenshots it could do.
Job's done.
This is probably not really news, but Gematsu has an article, Gungrave Gore, G-O-R-E, logo revealed, plus a new visual featuring the logo. So Gungrave is a manga slash anime or something, whatever. So they're making a new game somewhat based on that, I would imagine. For the PlayStation 4, it's coming out in December. I don't know if Gungrave is even that good. It's just one of those names of old animes that I remember from decades previous, where, yeah, I've heard the name, I've seen it on sale, but it never really caught my eye as far as being interesting. For all I know, it's just a clone of any other gun-centric sci-fi fantasy series, of which there was quite a few. Let's see.
To my side.
That's probably a simplistic trade for no reason. Next we have a game on Steam here called Epitasis? I don't know how you'd pronounce that. It doesn't sound like a word. What is this though? Is this a walking simulator? It says it's an open world adventure game. Looks like it might have some light puzzles, so it's a little bit more than a walking simulator. It's discounted for $17.99, which is pretty high, but I guess I'm being generous today, so I'll put it on the follow list. It looks like there might actually be somewhat of a game there. There we go. Just buff that guy up. Next we have a game on Steam called Galaxy in Peril, which looks like a low-effort space adventure game. How much do they want? $1.59 discounted, English only is the language, yeah. Yeah, this is probably just a low-effort asset flip space game. When you think about how even the best of the best space games have kind of failed to they've really failed to do anything particularly interesting with their development. Yeah, we haven't really seen a good space game. It'll be interesting when we see Bethesda come out with their space game and see if that works pretty well. Mass Effect, I guess, sort of is that, but Mass Effect heavily relies on you ignoring the fact that it's not open world and thus defeats the general idea of a game being set in space in the first place. So yeah, but as far as a Skyrim in space type game, which is kind of what you would need, there really hasn't been anything. Arguably the same is true for just your standard modern time frame games. There really hasn't been a great modern day or slightly in the future style of games. Let's see. this first to build that. Then this. That's exactly what I want. Play that.
Job's done.
I hope that works. So moving on to the next article. TechCrafter has an article here. Jim returns a brand new exclusive adventure for the upcoming Intellivision Amico console. I imagine it's not going to be a very long or very good game if it's only coming out for this Intellivision Amico console, which I have never even heard of. So, there's definitely some weirdness happening with the idea, first of all, of making a new Intellivision console, since Intellivision's in no way really succeeded. Weird controllers, like with very few buttons. But also we have a lot of NES Minis, Sega Genesis Minis, and the popularity of those has opened the door to a lot of people thinking about releasing things that probably should be called nostalgia consoles or something along that line instead of being called real consoles, because they're certainly not going to have AAA games come out. Looking at, let's see, the beginning of, I can't get back to the thumbnail of this. Looking at those controllers that were being shown, there were two controllers with a color screen and a single thumb pad, which probably has just 8-way directionality at best, and maybe a button or click. That's definitely not enough buttons for what you would need to do for modern games, and you need to have modern games. And quite frankly, for the PlayStation 5, I'd like to see, and the Xbox 2 also, I'd like to see a slight change in the number of buttons and get slightly more for a few reasons. Not just more buttons for more buttons' sake, but particularly when you're scrolling through menus and weapon selecting, there's still really not a great system for that on a controller. And as games get more and more open-ended with the number of guns you can carry and switch between, there's been no adaptation for that. Having the D-pad, for example, on the Xbox One controller really limits you down to 4 potential choices before you're having to hit 2 or 3 buttons to bring up a selection wheel. And I'd like to see the end of selection wheels before. I guess we're just trying to play as many cards and win, so we're trying to do 2 things at once here. I've never actually gotten around to playing any of the Earthworm Jim games. I don't think there's any on Steam, or if there are on Steam, I've just not gotten around to realizing that they are. I very possibly may already own them. It's definitely one of the many games that just kind of I never get around to. Okay. So here. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article, Counter-Strike Go, Global Offensive, Counter-Strike Global Offensive, Danger Zone, which I'm not sure if the Danger Zone part here is official Valve creation, or if Danger Zone is just a map or some community-made thing. Steals ideas from Apex Legends and adds a new Sirocco map. Let's see, CSGO's Danger Zone is a fast-paced battle royale mode that builds on Counter-Strike Go's tactical gameplay and to deliver more contemporary shooter experience, where primal survival is everything.
To my side.
Let's keep going. I have to scroll through this article. Yesterday, the development team of Counter-Strike Go Danger Zone added a map called Sirocco, which aims to bring the whole experience to Danger Zone. Sirocco, perhaps it's pronounced Sirocco, like a Morocco, Syria combined.
Let the pain speak to me.
Let's see. Well, I guess without knowing who's making Danger Zone, it doesn't really matter. I would argue that taking Battle Royale ideas and stealing them from Apex Legends is not too big of a deal, because each one of these ideas seems to be pretty iterative, and you're going to run into scenarios where this is just going to happen a lot. Let's see. This. Apex Legends, on the other hand, is, I think, pretty quickly losing all of its player base from what I hear. As somebody who hasn't played any of it, I have no idea. I think we will start to see this happen more and more. Is that a new Battle Royale game will come out, there will be a slight spike, and then a big drop off down to approaching 0, then a new game will come out, and then there will be a slightly lesser spike, because more people will just be done with Battle Royales in general, and then it will quickly slide off. And eventually we'll hit a point where a Battle Royale game comes out, and there's just no spike. Nobody plays it, very few people play it on day 1. And I wouldn't be surprised if it takes 3 or 4 Battle Royales to come out and just quietly not admit that there's not really much of a player base. We may already be in that phase, quite frankly. I don't know if perhaps now is just not a good time for video games to come out in general, because people, I'm not exactly sure when kids get out of school these days, but I imagine summer break in the United States is pretty closely approaching. Or is summer already happened? No, I think, yeah, people get out of school and it's stopped being rainy and wintry, so people are going to do more things outside, and the more things you do outside, the less video games you're playing, except for maybe Pokemon Go. Let's see. Moving on, we have a game on Steam, Flaws in the People We Love, which is an interesting name of a game, but unfortunately this is an obvious low-effort asset flip game. It looks horrible, even for a low-effort asset flip game. It's free, so I guess the price is right. English only. Says it has full voice acting. It looks like you're holding a gun in some of this for some reason, when it really feels more like it would be a walking simulator. That's not gonna work. TechCrafter has an article here. Layton's Mystery Journey Deluxe Edition has been rated for the Nintendo Switch by the SRB. So this Layton is not Professor Layton. I imagine this is the next generation Layton, which I think is this character. They transitioned the main character, I think. So like this is the 7th mainline Professor Layton title. Follows a new protagonist, Catrelli Layton, as she searches for her father, the eponymous Professor Layton. So okay, you're playing as a slightly different character. I assume that this is coming. This is coming to the West because the SRB is reviewing it. It would be Sero if it was just coming to Japan or Sero, the European one. Yeah, ESRB is pretty much just the West, United States, Americas. I think maybe ESRB ratings also apply to Canada and Mexico, and that's pretty much it. Alright, so we've been going an hour and 23 minutes, and we have done 2 of the 3 daily quests, which is all we really need to do. So this is the point to break this up and move over to the European account. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and get me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.
Busy night, but there's always room for another.
Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we're back to another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Wednesday, May 1st. We're on the European account. We made it up to rank 18, not very high, quite frankly. But we ended, I guess, at rank 18. We got a rank 17 baggage, which gives us 20 dust and a card back and a golden card, which is not a lot, quite frankly. I think the rewards on this stuff needs to start getting ramped up quite a bit, so that we can try to encourage fewer people to get bored and leave Hearthstone. Unfortunately, today's Tavern Brawl, if it's anything like the experience I had for the America's account, will take forever. Let's re-roll this one, and then that puts us play Warlock. Yeah, we can play Warlock and get an overlap, and then just get 50 gold, or we could try to play just Rogue, but you know, playing Warlock and playing 30 Warlock class cards and not winning seems slightly unlikely. First things first though, let's rebuild our decks. Or you know what, for just time saving sake, I'll do this off screen after the stream. I do want to rebuild all these, but I'm gonna also have to rename them, and it probably won't change too much in today's stream. So we'll just live with what we've got for the European and America's account. First things first, Tavern Brawl. We have a decent amount of news, so we're going to try to burn through the news just in case I get lucky. I don't think today is going to be a day where I get lucky and I can finish early because I've gotten all the daily quests done, but maybe. So, Gematsu has an article, Toho Project Fighting Game Toho Hayobana Entomonomy of Common Flowers is coming to the PS4. This looks like a 2D fighting game with 2 fighters per team. Nothing else really to say here. It's coming out on Steam. Also, let's see. Trade a lot of these. So, yeah, this game is already on Steam, but it's all in Japanese. So I wouldn't be surprised if this doesn't have English language support when it comes out for the PS4. Or maybe this is a slight hope that it will get English language support on the PC, although that hasn't been announced, and so that is just pure speculation. This looks like it's a bunch of Shrine Maiden anime characters fighting each other. Pretty flashy fighting game with a lot of stuff going on. This is probably the kind of fighting game that I would be concerned about trying to learn how to play, because I wouldn't want to... I really wouldn't want to irritate myself in that fashion. Just gonna go ahead and use the coin to draw a card. Yeah, I think it would be nicer to start on a slower, less visually distracting fighting game, and cut my teeth on that before moving into something that's just got something flashing on the screen at all times. I don't usually have a problem with a bunch of stuff flashing on the screen, but there's always a danger there. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. Blizzard announced its plan to skip Gamescom 2019 event. I seem to recall they had very little presence in 2018 also. So yeah, they're not going to the German Gamescom, which is the biggest, I think, European games event. Let's see. So Blizzard doesn't really have anything to announce, and they're on the verge. Activision Blizzard, let's call it by its real name, is probably on the verge of bankruptcy, if I were to guess. So yeah, I'm not super surprised that they would want to save themselves some money. Of course, when you think about this, the idea of promoting a new update to World of Warcraft or World of Warcraft Classic, that's not going to happen at Gamescom. The idea of promoting the new expansion of Rise of Shadows and Hearthstone, that's not going to happen at Gamescom. The idea of promoting Overwatch and any new content that might be coming to Overwatch, which is probably not too much coming new to Overwatch. I haven't heard of anything. Summon 1/1 copies of 2 friendly Death Rattle minions that died this game. Have we had any Death Rattle minions that have died this game? Oh no. By fire, be purged. We'll have to see if that would even do anything. You could also be promoting the classic World of Warcraft, not World of Warcraft, the classic Warcraft and StarCraft 1 that came out in good old games. You can be promoting quite a bit. And to not bother to even send out a single person and have just even a nominal presence is kind of weird. Like, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. I'm just going to play this and see what happens. Yeah, nothing happened, okay. Yeah, there's definitely some stuff that you could do, even if you're going to say, well, we're just going to have a booth and have our games playable. That wouldn't cost that much. Next dragon you play costs 2 less. Right. What do I want to do? Alright, so let's just do this. So yeah, slightly concerning. But I personally wouldn't be too upset if I just rode Hearthstone all the way down. If tomorrow it occurs that Activision Blizzard's going bankrupt, Hearthstone's shutting down, and just no new content, I'd be like, okay, we've had our fun. We played this game enough. Let's just play it till the servers shut down and be done with it. At that point, yeah, I played wrong there. I suppose at that point we would have to jump to Magic the Gathering Arena, whatever state it is in, if Hearthstone was just to shut down. Either that or Gwent, as far as a card game. Either that or I just would have to make a very hard decision to say, I'm not going to play any game whatsoever, and I'm just going to have a live stream video game news show. And if I was going to do that, I think that would be kind of painful to do. But I also kind of heavily suspect that's not how this is going to play. Let's draw a card first. 4 to 5 damage to all minions. I keep hurting myself. Like, next we have a game on Steam called DBWT, which looks like a asset flip game of some sort. It looks like it might be a puzzle game of some sort, maybe a horror game. It really is just asset flips though. $1.99 with no discount. That game doesn't need any further consideration than that. All spells cost 3 less. Plus 4 attack here. I can do a little bit here, but not enough. Give a minion Divine Shield, draw a card. And I killed myself doing that. That's a joke, certainly. I'm growing to really hate this tavern brawl. It's just slow more than anything else. Next we have a game on Steam called Balanced Politics Simulator, which is almost certainly a troll game. The idea of being balanced and having politics is kind of ridiculous. Early access, $9.99, English only. This doesn't look like enough of a game, frankly. It's visually polished enough, but it seems like it's, frankly, just not entertaining enough. It seems like all you do is pass a vote or veto a vote, kind of like the Reigns game where you swipe left, swipe right to end in events happen, possibly partially random events happen. And it has a line here in this video, can you be a fair president? People in the United States, I don't think, particularly want a fair president, or fairness is not a #1 concern. More than anything else, over every political campaign, there is a promise for change, a promise for improvement, a promise to take actions and do certain things. The fairest possible president would simply ensure that no action happens whatsoever and nothing changes, and that's certainly not what people want. So, yeah, fair is really a useless term in almost every conversation. It's never helpful to say that. Let's see, +1/+1. Just do that early. There we go. Next we have a game on Steam called Blue Crystal, which is a top-down twin-stick shooter where you seem to kind of fly around and move pretty fast. Seems to be like oddly speed based for what it is. It's kind of a bullet hellish. It looks like also you're playing as a blue crystal character. I just don't see enough here that interests me though. It would always be a hard sell for a top-down twin-stick shooter. This is $14.99 with a extra end-user license agreement, English and Japanese, no discount. Let's see if this developer's made anything else. No. I think that's easy enough to skip.
I hear your heart beating.
I don't think I'll draw any spells from that. I don't think I have any spells actually in my deck. I get all from this wild magic hero ability. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Jump Off the Bridge, which looks like a low effort, I guess, position tower defense style game. It does not look entertaining or visually good looking. It seems like it's probably a frustration game where you're going to get a bunch of different scenarios. It's early access for $2.99 with one achievement, which might make it a achievement game, or it might just be a funny achievement. It says it has 35 levels. But yeah, there's nothing there that would really be a good selling point. Let's see. Deal 3 damage. Draw a card. Let's see. Death rattle. Return to your hand. Okay. Actually, I should have played this card first. Next, we have a game on Steam called Happy Words, which is basically Words with Friends, I think. Just a clone of that, or a Scrabble clone, I guess, to be more generic. That being said, this looks more like Russian letters than English letters. So it's early access for $3.74 discounted. It says it supports a bunch of languages. It has online multiplayer. I don't see why you would want to play Words with Friends clone though on Steam. If anything, I would say it makes some sense to have actual developer of Worlds with Friends spend the extra effort to port their game to PC, and I think they probably have a website that does that, and so you could just go through the website if you were interested. In turn. So yeah, I can't see anything quality-wise that would make me want to put Happy Words on the fall list, or content-wise. You are definitely going to be better playing Words with Friends or a game like Words with Friends on a cell phone when you have brief moments of free time. I played Words with Friends when it first came out, and I tried it. It was alright, but then it seemed like a lot of people finally just got bored of it, and so in the act of getting bored with it, it lost most of its player base. See, this will do 5 damage. So if I play this, that'll be fine. And then return. Why did it work that time? Next we have a game on Steam called The Artifacts, which looks like it's a weirdo visual novel, which is not widescreen. And this hits a level of what looks like just cut and paste weirdness that I don't see. I don't feel like there's any quality here. This is $2.69 discounted, English only. While I am a sucker for weirdo games in a lot of cases, this feels like it's just nowhere close. They're calling it an interactive storybook, probably just to get around the fact that it's very, very low quality and very, very short. Okay. What can we do here? Can't do anything because I'm full of cards. Let's see. I don't know what it is about this Tavern Bowl in particular that makes it so difficult to win. Is it's definitely a case of you're getting a bunch of cards that you normally couldn't have or wouldn't have. You're definitely running into a lot of scenarios where you're just not going to have as smooth of an experience as you would like. It's just,
My work is paramount. Leave me alone.
I don't see how I don't lose here. Moving on, we have a game on Steam here called Cooking Trip that looks like another Cooks Are Delicious clone. A game where you're just really running a shop and nothing else. A game where you're doing somebody else's job. It's $5.99 discounted. And yeah, these type of games, even though they look fine, they also look like mobile ports. They certainly don't interest me. And if these kind of games are the new kind of games targeted at girls, which I kind of get the feeling they are, I don't know what we're really telling the next generation of females is, oh, you'll be working in retail when you grow up. Odds are nobody will be working in retail by the time they grow up. It'll all be automated, or there will just be no more retail stores in general. I think a lot of it is there will be no more retail stores in general. So, yeah, that's certainly not what you'd want your little daughter to aspire to. I'd much prefer them play games where they're a doctor, or a scientist, or a professor, or an artist, or an author, anything, detective, police officer, just about anything other than, oh, you're going to be working in a soul-crushing retail field. Moving on, Game of Sutra has an article. Roblox company Anki lays off its entire workforce ahead of closure. This is not super video game related, but these little robots that at least they thought they were going to be the big seller for the past couple of Christmases, apparently did not sell enough to keep the company in business. I can tell you, having looked at these, they are very, very expensive for what they do and not that entertaining. They seem to try and promote these quite a bit through tech blogs and such and TV, and that promotion still didn't get a lot of sales because of the high price of it. And I can anecdotally say that when the Toys R Us closest to me was going out of business and I was looking at anything and everything available for purchase, I should have attacked first. These little robots were not really discounted, and they were already taken off the shelf. So I don't know if they had them return a lot of inventory or if people bought it before me. But either way, it certainly didn't help. There's a quote here: significant financial deal at the late stage fell through with a strategic investor, and we were not able to reach an agreement, which is a great example of how these companies are living on very little more than a hope and a prayer as far as just investors basically pulling out their investment the second they have a whim that they're not interested in the company anymore. And this is part of the shady downside of public companies and investing in companies in general, is that a lot of times you're not able to maintain your company long enough to see success. Although this also is the basic argument that is always said. It's the exact same thing Telltale said when they went out of business, is that well, an investor pulled their support, and thus we can't afford to pay anybody. This very possibly, if Anki is set in California, might also mean that they have laid off all their employees without giving enough fair notice. But that's pretty much only in California where you have to do that. Most states in the United States, you can lay off anybody with no notice whatsoever. I personally also think that the world of robotics that are going to come into a house and be useful has yet to really been created. The number one things I need personally, and I think most people personally need as far as robotics, is if I could have something that would take the trash out, that would dust my furniture and my shelves, something that would do the laundry to the extent of being a like taking dirty laundry and putting it in a laundry machine, and then taking clean laundry and hopefully folding it one with in and putting it up. Somebody that would take dirty dishes and put it into a dishwasher. Things that all kind of require a humanoid form robot and with humanoid style hands are the things that would be helpful. I don't need a little toy dog, although if you made a robotic dog that looked like a dog and acted like a dog, I'd be very happy for that, but it would have to have basically fake fur and not look like a robot, because I would want to be able to forget that it actually is a robot. And I don't need something that's a small toy that can only play a few games, and you're basically having to spend time to entertain it more than it's spending time to entertain you. Yeah, general cleaning robots are what we need more than anything else, and that's such a diverse amount of actions that would need to be learned. That's not likely to happen anytime soon. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Micro Mages, which looks like a collection of games that are inspired by 8-bit NES console games. It's not widescreen. I'm normally not very pleased with the idea of a NES-styled game. This one in the video has caught my eye a little bit, so I'm willing to give this one a chance. This was probably evidence that I am being way too generous today. This is $10.99, and I bet it's from somebody who hasn't made anything else. So it's asking quite a lot, but I'll put it on a follow list and see. Alright, what do I want to do? Cast corruption on everybody else. And then just do this and this. Next, we have an article from Gamma Sutra. Microsoft is using Xbox adaptive controllers to support U.S. veterans. I think it's worth mentioning still that Microsoft really didn't make the adaptive controller. They licensed it out and hired a company to do it. And yes, the adaptive controller for the most part seems to be a fine device that's too expensive, but they're really pumping it for a lot of good press. Which is kind of undeserved. And yes, modern U.S. veterans who have recently been injured will appreciate the adaptive controller, but the later Vietnam era, World War II era veterans, people who are extremely old and probably will never play a game in their life, those veterans, I doubt, have any real interest or care about playing video games. And it is still, I think, very important to mention that the adaptive controller is pretty expensive, and then you probably, depending on each person's individual issues of mobility, are going to have to add $75 to potentially $300 worth of extra accessories on top of it. So that's very, very expensive just to play a game. But I imagine a lot of people would be willing to pay that much, so because they have so little to do otherwise. Let's see, Battlecry, 6 damage. And this. see, is this gonna play? It's taking too long. Let's move on to the next article. GameIndustry.biz has an article here. Borderlands 3 is about more bullets, not new bullet points. Gearbox developer says the latest entry in was about broadening familiar, sharing thoughts on collaboration, craziness or crassness. I guess that's crassness and crunch. Now, one of the quotes that's coming out of this article, because GameIndustry.biz loves to post the same article 5 different times and take different quotes and put them on Twitter, was it's not about nickel and diming you. I am tentatively cautious about that statement because Borderlands 2, once it introduced the skins and the DLC for all that skins, there is very much a nickel and diming that happens there. There's a good $70 worth of skins that you can buy for Borderlands 2. They don't go into the microtransaction realm, fair enough, but they definitely were leaning towards that, and I wouldn't believe 100% that we aren't going to see some DLC elements that are going to feel a lot like microtransactions in Borderlands 3. I think Borderlands 3 too is starting to get showed as of today, or maybe in the next few days. So yeah, here's the quote. When we say, quote, no microtransactions, we're really trying to say that we're not trying to nickel and dime people. To actually have to make that statement tells me that there probably is microtransactions of some sort in the game. We've already seen it. The VIP elements and the idea of having to pre-order and the idea of having to play on the Epic Store because it's an Epic Store exclusive. All of that is nickeling and diming people. Definitely. So I feel like that there is a lie being brewed here that may not be felt to be true later on. Overall, though, I think Borderlands 3, Borderlands 3 is probably going to be a fine game. I still very much want it to be a very good game, but there is some danger in the idea of it promising a lot with Tim Sweeney and or Randy Pitchford. In this case, it'd be more Randy Pitchford coming out and promising a lot of things that actually aren't delivered on. I mean, it's worth mentioning they couldn't even get their own video to play until like the 10th attempt on the reveal trailer. Okay. Finally got a victory. Finally got a victory. Another quote in this article is, if we crunched, I probably wouldn't be able to work here. So it's kind of good to know or hear that Gearbox isn't too much into crunching, like extreme overtime. I've heard similar instances that seem to imply that's probably more accurate than not a statement. That being said, it is really very, very faint praise to say we don't do this horrible thing that so many other companies do. It's like, okay, great. You're just listing a list of all the bad things you don't engage in. Well, not listing any of the bad things you are engaged in. So now we need to play Warlock rank. Let's see, yeah, no other real quotes to quote mine from this article. And I'm seeing a lot of advertisement. I would argue there's probably too much advertisement going on for Borderlands 3 because people who want to play Borderlands 3 probably know that Borderlands 3 is people at this point that want to play Borderlands 3 probably know that it's an Epic Store exclusive. It would be an interesting story to read, certainly, if Borderlands 3 came out and a lot of people said, well, I can't find it, why isn't it on Steam? That would be an interesting story, but I don't think that's going to really be the case. So, when I'm seeing 5-10 Borderlands 3 videos while watching YouTube in one day, are probably wasting their money.
The light protects me.
And I probably don't watch the right TV channels to see if there are any Borderlands 3 commercials going out on TV. Or any other source. I would probably really question the idea of cutting the promotion and the advertising for Borderlands 3 in half for this first 6 months. Promote the game as an Epic Store exclusive, and then as soon as it's no longer an exclusive, come back again and promote it a second time as a as now available on Steam, and see how much extra sales that gets you for what would then be a 6-month-old game. 6-month-old game. Tech Wrap, there's an article here. Twitch Prime May 2019 games include adventure, fantasy, real-time strategy, and more. Let's see, what are you getting? They really did not write this well. The Little Acre, Whispering Willow Stealth, Bastard Deluxe, and Majesty Collection. Let's see. Along with this titles, you also get several packs of in-game loot for World of Tanks, Magic the Gathering Arena, Smite. Maybe I should actually make a Magic the Gathering Arena account at that point. League of Legends, Call of Duty Black Ops, the Nintendo Switch Online subscription. So those games are super appealing or interesting. Very quickly, Twitch Prime has lost the feel of what it was going to be, because it felt like you were going to get major AAA games very close to the release, and you're really getting pretty old, unknown games and the B tier, lesser advertised things. Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam called Tiki Trials, which looks like a platformer, speedrunning style game where you're jumping back and forth and trying to collect things. This is an interesting 3D approach for what would normally be a 2D approach of a game. That being said, it looks like this really is just a one-screen game. Seems like the programmer could not program in scrolling. It's $10.49 discounted, and yeah, it just doesn't look like enough of a game to interest me, so I'm gonna leave it off my list.
So many possibilities.
Let's see, here, and here, and here. In the turn. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article here. Snack World, the Dungeon Crawl Gold has been rated in Australia. I've never heard of this game. Looks like it's a dungeon crawler. It's a Switch port of a 3DS RPG that was launched in 2017. So apparently it's going to the west, or it's at the very least going to Australia. Let's see. Play this, and then this.
My shield for Argus.
And then turn. YouTube has a creator blog that came out April 30th titled Addressing Creator Feedback and an Update on My 2019 Priorities. This, I believe, is from the CEO of YouTube. I've also heard that a rumor, as all I can really call it right now, that YouTube has cost Google a lot of money, thus costing Alphabet a lot of money. That's not any different than, frankly, any other time that YouTube has existed, though. So there's probably not a lot to complain about that there, because that's always been the case. Right, 1, 2, 3. And kill this guy. And then kill that. So I'm gonna just scroll through this blog. The number one is titled Living Up to Our Responsibility. My top priority is responsibility. We've always balanced maintaining an open platform with managing our community guidelines. So basically, they're going to demonetize and kick more videos off. Number two is supporting creator and artist success. this is a nice number 2 idea. What actual actions happen are on any of this is the question. It seems to me Susan Wojcicki does very little, at least from what it seems apparent, to actually change anything at YouTube, and instead she just runs around and acts as a puppet and a figurehead and gives speeches and talks to people. Let's see, we also heard firsthand that our manual claiming system was increasingly being used to claim very short, in some cases 1-second content, or incidental content like when a creator walks past a store playing a few seconds of music. We were already looking into this issue, but hearing this directly from creators was vital. We're exploring improvements in striking the right balance between copyright owners and creators. The right balance is 30 seconds, at the very least. Like, if you're not doing 30 seconds, even if it's a 30-second music clip out of 1:30, nobody in their right mind is going to listen to a song that's 1:30 long in 3 different YouTube videos. So, yeah. Removing the ability to manually claim things or automatically claim things under 30 seconds would be super helpful. And to get rid of most of the copyright things. Right now I've mostly been ignoring copyright claims, but since Star Wars videos will be coming out, I'm going to file some disputes later tonight on the Star Wars theme, because they're actively trying to claim all the Star Wars themed songs again, which they're constantly doing. Let's see. And I would call incidental use of music also is covered when you're talking completely over the music too. It's like, yes, there's a song playing in the background of like Hearthstone right now, but I'm talking directly over it. Is anybody in their right mind going to watch my video instead of just listening to the song off iTunes if the song was available for sale on iTunes? No, that'd be ridiculous. Paragraph 3 is improving communication and engagement. Yeah, that would definitely be helpful. The number one thing here that I would like for them to say, there's no paragraph 4, or I'd like for YouTube to say is, hey, we've realized that the monetization requirement of 1,000 subscribers is too high, and thus we're going to lower it down to a more reasonable 300 subscribers. Because that would make me extremely happy to be able to re-monetize my channel. Story from the Union. Give me a win +1/+1. There's nothing super long in these sentences. It looks like more than likely every single one of these words was hand-picked to not be controversial, which is probably a good idea considering how much people hate everything YouTube ever says. The one thing I would say is there are a lot of blue links in this article linking to like top tier YouTubers. So she is still kind of hobnobbing and rubbing elbows with top tier YouTubers instead of just saying, hey, I'm not going to mention any specific YouTubers in this article because I'm talking actually about the entirety of the YouTube community, not just these big ones that I want to promote. But at the very least, it's not just an article that says, hey, we've had another adpocalypse. They've really dropped the ball on that, though. There really should have been a new focus on ensuring that there will be no more new adpocalypses ever in the future.
I fight.
Okay. Next we have a game on Steam here called Signed and Sealed with Kiss, which looks like it's a guy-on-guy visual novel dating game. It doesn't look like it's animated terribly, but it does seem like you only have like 2, maybe 3 choices as tagged with sexual content. $4.95, discounted, English only. This is that Western animation style trying to look like anime, where it looks like it's drawn with markers instead of whatever would be the right tool to use. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything here. that interests me. Let's see, maybe we'll look at some of the other things that they made and see if they've got anything else. Like, it seems like there's several of these style of games that they've released, and it's not until Blossoms Bloom Brightest that any of them have even gotten enough reviews, and that was from 2017. So yeah, it seems like well, this one's positive with 33 reviews. So this is probably just a mediocre visual novel, and when I start thinking about how many visual novels would I really want to own to cover, I probably need to start holding things to a lot higher standard as far as quality goes.
Into the breach!
As you command.
Check out there's an article. The Humble Lego Games Bundle brings you all the bricks you can eat. This is really just an advertisement, and it's not even a great one because it's not easily listing all the games that are in the Lego bundle. Unfortunately, I own basically all the Lego games, so if you're getting that bundle and you own basically any Lego game, you're probably gonna get some duplicates. Lego Worlds is the one I don't have. Lego City Undercover, I don't have that one, but I'm fairly certain I have Lego Batman 3. I'm fairly certain I have Lego the movie. I'm fairly certain I have Lego Batman 2. I definitely have that. I definitely have Harry Potter games. Some of these Harry Potter games are not even that good though. I heard the Indiana Jones Lego game was made in like 7 months, by the way. So that explains why that game in particular was not very good in quality. And a lot of the Lego games do seem to bounce back and forth between decent quality and bad quality. And of course, on my current PC build, which I assume is my video card's fault, none of the Lego games run correctly. They all run very, very poorly and stutter and lock up. So be careful if you have GTX 970 too, or just be careful in general. I would still heavily recommend playing the Lego games via Xbox 360. Get a used Xbox 360 and go buy all those games used, and it will save you quite a bit of money. Let's see. I'm going to play Warlock cards, so I'm going to trade out these 2 cards. Next Tech Wrap, there's an article here, Manage Space in Space Company Simulator on PC this fall. This is a hype article for the most part, so I don't think there's anything else that needs to be said there right now. Playing a Space Company Simulator doesn't sound particularly interesting to me. Let's see. Get as many of these on the field as fast as possible. Gamma Citra has an article here. Coming Facebook gaming features focus on discoverability and engagement. The fact that Facebook gaming has been around for a couple of years now, and besides Farmville, I don't think I could name you a single game on the platform. But I still really wouldn't want to play games on Facebook, and definitely don't want to see things like pop-ups and announcements from other people playing games on Facebook. The idea of Facebook being a gaming community just kind of fails miserably. I think Facebook in general barely succeeds at being a social media platform. So yeah, there's really nothing I think that they can add to it to try to motivate more people to play Facebook games that won't immediately become annoying and get muted if you can mute it. Or if you can't mute it, I wouldn't be surprised if people quit Facebook over it in general. Personally, my personal Facebook has gotten so underused that I had to join several groups just so I was getting any new news on a daily basis at all, like any new posts. And it's been at least a year, if not 3, since I last felt like Facebook was I was using Facebook as anything other than a just open public journal. I was just posting things there that I know people aren't seeing and I know nobody cares about. Because so many people have stopped looking at it and stopped using it. But I guess there could be a worse situation. I'm not getting a ton of political posts either. But I never really was. Let's see. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Ultra Wings Flat, which looks like a flying around game, but more of a cartoony Pilot Wings style game. You have a handgun, you're shooting balloons. Is this a VR game that has been converted to outside of VR? This doesn't look bad. Like, the idea of a Pilot Wings game does make some sense. We're releasing a flat version of our popular VR game, Ultra Wings, $12.74 discounted. Okay.
So many
Has an end-user license agreement and 10 achievements. Let's see. Supports several OTOSs, heads-up tactical array systems, I think is what that stands for, but maybe not. This doesn't look terrible, so I'll put this on the follow list and see if people like it.
As you command.
Why me?
I fight.
Why me?
I'm gonna win, but I'm not gonna play enough cards.
Put this apple on your head.
Yeah, I don't see how this guy's gonna do anything different that would stop me from winning. Next we have a game on Steam called Slicers Zerweg, which feels like either it's German or just gibberish. It seems to be gibberish based on the visuals looking very much like gibberish. It's $3.39 discounted. Looks like it might be a program game in English and Russian. Even if it is a programming game, and I am a sucker for programming games, there's still a lot missing here as far as quality. It's the only game from this developer, too. Okay. So now we're at the rank 20. How many more Warlock cards do we need to play? 15 more. Well, we're winning. Maybe we'll get a win streak and jump up several ranks. That would be nice.
Gul'dan versus
Next we have a game on Steam called Chronoraptor,
Your
which
soul shall be mine.
seems to be kind of an isometric escape puzzle room experience. This looks unique enough of a game, even though it seems kind of silly to have a velociraptor chasing you. It seems unique enough that I can't dismiss it originally. It's free, so I can dismiss it because of that. But yeah, it's probably a indie project or student project. It doesn't look terrible. It's free if you're out there and you're interested in playing it. But since it is free, I don't need to put it on the follow list. So this next article, which I think is a tabletop game, is I've always heard of this and never really known what it was talking about and never bothered to investigate it. But TechRaptor has this article, Big Eyes, Small Mouth, which is a description of how anime characters traditionally are drawn. They have way bigger eyes to show emotion and typically smaller mouths because of, I think, mostly a concern that Japanese people don't like to show their teeth. I'm not sure that that's even in the latest generations really much of a concern. But so, this has been around for a while. I've heard this phrase. Apparently it's a tabletop anime RPG game, so if you were into anime and tabletop RPG experiences, this is it. A new 4th edition game. 4th edition of the game has come out. Does this really have anything to do with video games? Not really. I'll probably pretty quickly forget that what it even stands for. 311 scabs. If I can kill that somehow first, that'd be great.
Flash fails. Try crystal.
Tech Raptor has another article here. Valve's first dedicated VR game will arrive in 2019 as a flagship title. It better be a flagship title because speculation I've heard is that the VR headset, the Valve Index, is going to be selling for $1,000. So if it's Half-Life 3 or something like that, it almost certainly isn't. But if it was something really, really impressive like that, that would be interesting. But I don't think that's likely the actual case. I think more likely than anything else, it's going to be a case of Portal 3 or Left 4 Dead 3. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Left 4 Dead 3, and that is that. It would be really surprising, I guess, for Valve to come out with something that is a totally new IP. But it could also just be Counter-Strike in VR, Counter-Strike Global Offensive. That would make a lot of sense also. Okay.
I concede.
Come on, let me play more cards. Didn't play fast enough. Oh, win streak bonus. Can't really complain about that. Now I just need to play 21 or 11 more cards. Or Warlock cards. Next we have a game on Steam called Timefall, which looks like it's a physics-based Tetris clone. There's nothing interesting here. Having the stripes over everything in particular is just a horrible visual element. I don't know why anybody would think that was a good idea. This is 59 cents discounted, English only. Nothing more needs to be said about that. There's actually quite a lot of video game news today. It feels like. Either that or it just feels like it's been going on quite a bit. GameIndustry.biz has an article here. The heavy toll making games in the San Francisco Bay Area. Making games is difficult anywhere in the world. Developers and publishers weigh in on trying to do it in the most expensive place on Earth. This is a little bit inside baseball, so I'm not 100% certain. I really want to go through this whole article. We can kind of quote mine it here. There's a person named Kevin Bruner who says, "In 13 years, we never laid anybody off. It was a hard place to work at, but you always had a job." Let's see, there's a quote here from Right Bagwell. There were rumors flying around for years that the studio may get shut down because of its cost. So another quote here. There's a quote from Christian Segerstrahl. Most companies would miss out if they had no representation in Silicon Valley whatsoever. Yeah, that's kind of the problem in a nutshell, is that you have to be in Silicon Valley to meet and shake hands and rub elbows with people to make business deals. And if you're not making those business deals, you quickly are out of business. Let's see. Here's a quote from Martin Middleton. The Bay Area has a specific problem where you need a lot of money to even live modestly. That's certainly believable. And do that. And in return, are there any more quotes? There's a quote from Right Bagwell again. We would have a lot more time if we were not here. I'd say anywhere between 20% or 50% more time. That's probably just in the commuting Bay Area. Yeah, and that's the last quote. Yeah. Generally speaking, yeah, Silicon Valley is really just in the worst possible place. Like, if Silicon Valley all moved in one fell swoop to the middle of the United States, any middle part, there'd be much easier traffic, much lower cost of living, at least for a short amount of time. Probably a pretty better temperature, because you're not going to have to deal with fires. That's their main issue, is just
Double time and double bang.
fires.
Double time and double bang.
Dimension.
Let's see.
Job's done.
This is that guy again. But yeah, there's also pretty inside baseball to complain about working in Silicon Valley. They've been doing that. There's been plenty of other places that are trying very hard to grow video game and just tech centers, and it's slowly being spread out more and more throughout at least the United States and North America, if not throughout the entire world, for better or for worse. Next we have an article here from Gamasutra. Valve Index VR headset ships June 28th for $499 to $500 to $999. That's a big jump. What's the $500 difference? Let's see. Because Valve is selling each new element either as a standalone or as everything. So apparently $999 is the headset, the controllers, and base stations, which apparently they still need. I thought they didn't. I was wrong about that. So you could buy just a new headset for $499, I guess, and then the controllers. But then that doesn't really make sense either, because the controllers should not be another $250, and the base stations definitely shouldn't be another $250. So the whole thing doesn't seem like it's the right price. Seems like it is horribly overpriced. Yeah, that just seems really expensive. So maybe those prices are temporary, and we'll find that they're actually a lot cheaper, but if they aren't, it's basically a dead-in-the-water price. Nobody's going to pay that. Not in any realistic numbers. But that may also be their goal, is that they can only develop and build 100 of them in a month's time anyways. Have we finally played enough? No, we need to play 4 more Warlock class cards. Gametsu has an article here. Catherine Full Body Death by Nightmare trailer and digital pre-orders are now available in the West, so I didn't realize that Catherine Full Body was going to have any DLC, but apparently it is. There's... let's see. I guess there's no too much talk about it now, since it's out in Japan. It's due out for PS4 in the Americas on September 3rd, so there probably will be a little bit more talk about Catherine Full Body around September, but then I suspect we will not get too much coverage, and whatever the Death by Nightmare, it might not actually be a DLC, it might just be a new trailer that they made. Yeah, it looks like actually it's just a new trailer for the game, so they're just still trying to promote it and hype it up, which I think it mildly deserves that hype, because there is very much a large niche audience that likes the Catherine games, and the Full Body remaster sounds to be very good. What's weird though is Catherine Remastered, the not Full Body remaster, came out for America when it really felt like there really didn't need to be a remaster for the old game, when there's a new game with new content that's coming out that's also a remaster of the main game. If that's how that actually breaks down, I think that's how that is, actually. It's confusing. I'm confusing myself even trying to explain it, but yeah, there's a Catherine remaster that's just like an HD update that came out, but then there's also Catherine Full Body that's an HD remaster with new levels and a new character and new story and a lot more. So in their effort to hype the game, they've also managed to confuse the market, at least confuse me as a market, as a consumer, because I'm not 100% sure how many different versions you really need to own. I imagine you just need to buy a Full Body, and that's it. And probably won't play it on PC because it might be censored in some weird way. That would be the one story that would come out, is if it came out in the West censored on PS4, which very possibly might happen. I don't think there's really even that much to censor though in the game. Next we have a game on Steam called Neverynth. And this looks like it might be a bit of a mix between a Japanese RPG and Dark Souls. And I can't really tell if this just has some flashy selling points or if there's an actual game here. And maybe Dark Souls is the wrong descriptor. Maybe this is closer to a fast-paced action Devil May Cry style game. Whatever it is though, it's early access, it's $14.39, it's English and Chinese. So this might be a case of a Chinese game that's good, or it might be a case there's a Chinese game that is designed to look that good but actually isn't that good. I will say that it's already rated positively, so it definitely deserves to be on the fall list. Alright, let's
Your magic shall not save
mute that guy. And do this, and that, and that. GameIndustry.biz has the same article. Valve officially unveils the Valve Index. VR hardware features individual finger tracking compatibility with all Steam VR. Will cost $1,000.
Unity.
The finger tracking, in particular, I think is still mostly being done by a touch sensor, whereas ideally I'd kind of want all of the controls to disappear in VR and just have something that is scanning my fingers at all times. And I don't know how you get force feedback from that. Maybe a thin glove would be about as much as I would like to have to give some feeling like you're actually grabbing an item and interacting with it. But yeah, what they have right now is the index controllers. Looks interesting, but I'm not sure it actually feels or looks anything like a good controller. Moving on, GameIndustry.biz has an article. Google CEO says publishers, quote, want to see our commitment, end quote, to Stadia. No duh. Everybody wants to see their commitment to Stadia because we've seen Google start and abandon projects. In fact, they're bringing back hardware to Google I/O this year, which last year they had kind of abandoned hardware. And I don't think it's going to be Nest hardware. I know they've abandoned that too. I could go through a whole list of things Google has started and abandoned. And frankly, the fact that Stadia got announced and they didn't have partners already lined up, to me makes it feel very much like even if they did get people on board with Stadia now, it wouldn't be enough of an impact before the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox 2 came out and sucked all the air out of that conversation. People would probably forget Stadia before it ever had a chance to succeed, and probably will. Moving on, we have an article here on GameIndustry.biz. Devs suggest government play a larger role in regulation and research around addiction. Earthbound Games' Colin Anderson says lessons learned from broadcasting should help shape the future in digital media. This is probably UK devs pushing for this, and that is not a smart move. I really would like to know what is in the DNA of citizens of the UK that they just seem to absolutely love to ask the government to regulate things and limit the ability of creators to create things that people might be interested in actually engaging with. Although it is fair to say that regulation does not mean banning straight out, so perhaps a more nuanced interpretation of that is they just want to regulate games that kids are playing, but that seems to never even be the first step in most cases. It seems like you'll have governments go, well, we think Fortnite is gambling, therefore Fortnite is banned amongst all citizens, including adults. But yeah, in the United States, I think we have the right attitude in that one instance where we definitely, for the most part, don't want more government regulation. There's possibly a few places where I disagree with that, but not a lot. Like, certainly there might be some environmental arguments to be made that there should be more regulation, and some health and safety things where there should be more regulation. But entertainment, arts, literature, things like that, they don't need to really be regulated. Regulating what people can have in their mind should not be done by government. We believe in the idea of freedom of thought, and it seems like people in the UK in particular don't believe in that concept, or even possibly know that concept exists. There we go. Next, we have a game on Steam here called Shipbreakers, which looks to me like it's a small water planet where you're fighting each other in kind of a pirate-style game.
I wonder.
Seems kind of weird, definitely. The idea is interesting, but I'm not sure how well this really plays. It seems like there's a lot happening on the screen in what looks like a combo beat-em-up style game. It's a demo right now. It's coming soon, and it's gonna have single player multiplayer. Almost certainly I'm being too generous by putting this one on the fall list, but I'll give it a chance because the idea is not terrible. Like, it's not a terrible idea. Maybe you play it only for 5 minutes and get bored with it. That's believable. But yeah, there might be something there. Destroy friendly minions, give yourself lackeys. Right.
I can't do that.
Can't attack unless you have spell damage. Just draw a card. Play this. Use this. There we go. Transform that one into a better one.
It's a ribbon of moonlight.
Both players draw a card. Next, we have a game on Steam called Train Spotting Simulator. The idea of train spotting, if that's really what this is, I don't think that's really what this is. I think this is more of a strategy game where you have to actually know what specific train you're looking for, instead of what I assume train spotting would mean is just looking at whatever random trains happen to come by. Yeah. But the idea there is, I would assume, is to see some beauty and well animation in the trains, and that is definitely not what's being shown here. This is $3.59, discounted in English only with 8 achievements. It's over 200 stations, it says. Yeah, this feels a lot like you're just kind of playing a fast-paced version of Bingo. So yeah, I don't see anything in that deserves to be followed. We still have so much news. Oh, the good news is, I guess, we do still have plenty of news for the Asian account. And let's see, we have Lemon Lover on the chat, and he's figured out how to put an emoji heart and Rydo in a red foreground, white text background. I'd actually like to know how you did that, frankly. Apparently, maybe YouTube chat has updated its abilities. So, anyways, we've been going now in 30 minutes on the Asian account, and we got 2 out of the 3 daily quests done, so we're in the same position as the American account. It's time to move over to the Asian account. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.
Welcome to my end.
Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we're back to another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Wednesday, May 1st, and we are on the Asian account. It's been a slow day with the Tavern Brawls and lots of daily quests. We ended at rank 19 on the Asian account, so we'll get probably insignificant amounts of dust and such. and we're gonna have to play some ranked play to get back up to rank 20 at least. I don't know if we're gonna really see any big changes on the amount of progress I made up the rank ladder. Maybe not, but there's a lot of iffiness in it. Let's re-roll this 50, because we definitely didn't want to win 5 Tavern Brawls. We have no overlap whatsoever, so we get our pick of Warlock class cards, and winning, I guess, maybe we'll try to play Paladin, but first things first, we have to think through the Tavern Brawl. And while we're doing the Tavern Brawl, we have games on YouTube, on Steam to look at. So the first game we have on Steam is called Hearthstone, which is a weird name. It's mixed. It says it's a player versus player game. See, this looks like a straight up anime, which probably is hiding what the actual game is. This looks like one of those games where it's player versus player, just fighting in kind of an open arena games. And yeah, if you're not developing storylines or single player gameplay, I could see why people wouldn't be too happy about it. I'm also seeing a starter pack of $2.99 for this free-to-play game, and then more and more DLC that you can buy, $32.97 in total. It looks like it might be a Korean game based off of the languages that are being supported here. So, yeah, it's probably got a lot of microtransactions in it, and that's why people don't like it, or it just probably maybe plays really badly. See if we can see. No, the review is still in progress. Let's see. This game was overhyped, the PvP is one-sided, and the PvE has a cooldown time, and the servers are super bad. And don't say it's you, because in really DLC classes that are overpowered. So, like, just people don't like the balance of it in the play of the game. And you can kind of guess this. The sad thing is, like, if you have a game and it has such a highly polished anime cover to it and it's free, like, there's something missing here. Also, they're showing off characters in their underwear, so that's also notable on what they're focusing on. They're showing off a lot of costumes and a lot of skins here. But yeah, when you have something like this as your intro and it is so distinctly different from what you actually see when you play, that is a problem. Most AAA games for many years would not do this. Not even, maybe a few JRPGs would do something like this, but I think they're lesser even for doing that. You want the graphics of your game to be very much in line with what you're expected to see and when playing, because that's what really matters, is what are you actually going to be seeing when playing a game. And in many instances, I may have been able to attack there. In many instances, like, you're going to be playing a game like this and you're just going to see the back of your own character, or in this case you're going to see a lot of flashing on the screen and attacks and movements, and you know, so even if this fox character that's in the middle here that I assume the player is playing as, you're not seeing their costume, you're seeing their tail, and that's it. Because they're facing the other direction, and they will pretty much always be facing the other direction. Let's just go ahead and end the turn here. So yeah, that's a game that doesn't need to be on the fall list. Moving on, we have a Gamma Sutra article. Sega keen to improve profitability over digital titles after a disappointing year. We had already seen this article. Basically, Sega's trying to make more money. We'll see if they actually succeed at it. And I think they're going to put less effort in the digital mobile style games and more into AA, AAA style releases, and maybe that will help them. Maybe it won't. Yeah, it looks like I'm going to lose over here, so I'm not going to pay too much attention to this. Moving on, we have on Steam Starlink Battle for Atlas. This was the Toys to Life game that didn't require the toys. That was on the Switch. It's now come to the Steam platform and PC platform, and you can see it's mixed reviews, mixed results. I don't think Starlink it was a terrible game by any means. I just think it was a mediocre medium game, and had they from day one not been focused on the Toys to Life element and just been focused on making a good game, probably more than half the budget would have been added to the development of the game to make a better product. There's a lot of DLC here, $75 for DLC, $80 for the deluxe edition, which very possibly does include the DLC, the new row added into it. There's a lot of problems here. This is a Ubisoft product, so it probably goes through Uplay too. Let's see. Play all this. I think if Starlink somehow managed to turn it around and be an interesting game worth playing, I would hear about it. So at the current point, I don't see a real reason why I would need to put it on the fall list. Yeah, here's the negative review. Same old problems persist through years, unable to launch the game. Character DLC is locked in the Nintendo Switch only. Terrible game too. I thought it was just the Star Fox DLC that was locked behind Nintendo, which makes some sense, but yeah, it would be kind of nice if you could skin your ship like a Star Fox ship on a PC game. Moving on, we have an article from TechRaptor. Halo Master Chief Collection PC public flighting tests won't happen this April, which I guess that's probably all I need to know. Is that I'm not so hyped about the Master Chief Collection that I want to be in the public fighting, whatever, test anyways. I would much prefer to have a finished, polished experience when I finally do get around to, for the first time in my life, playing any Halo game. I'd really just like to have a simplistic, easy, play the game on easy mode experience and rush through a lot of the story and just get caught up and be able to say, well, I played the Halo games once, and that would probably be more than enough for me. And it feels like, to me at least, it's very, very questionable that people who liked to play Halo in the old days are going to come back to Halo these days. I feel like that audience has long since moved on and grown out of it. Moving on, Gamatsu has an article here. Power Rangers Battle for the Grid update adds a story mode and 3 more new characters. One of the major complaints about this fighting game, Power Rangers Battle for the Grid, which is pretty horribly animated here, is that there was literally no story whatsoever. But now they're adding the story mode and voiceovers and original cast. Maybe at this point it would start to make some sense that if there was a kid out there who's watched Power Rangers on Netflix, there's possibly something to believe in letting them play that fighting game, although arguably I don't think you should probably be letting kids watch Power Rangers because it's so fighting centric. Honestly, it's I would much prefer something where that isn't just a Sentai show, just a fighting-centric show to be shown. Pokemon, for instance, does a good job about that, where the Pokemon games really is very fighting-centric, but the Pokemon cartoon at least keeps it down to a shorter experience in later episodes. And I think there are definitely some episodes where you're not having any Pokemon fight at all. Right. Green Fury. Taunt. Should have played this guy. He has he does more damage. Yeah. I don't know, video game wise, if there's really a reason to try to introduce kids into fighting games using Power Rangers. Like, you could introduce kids to like Marvel vs. Capcom, and that would make a lot more sense. And that's an extremely old game. Right. Do I want to deal 5 damage? Next we have a game on Steam called A Sound Plan, which feels like it's just a player style of game. It's 8-bit pixel graphics that makes it very uninteresting to me visually. $7.99 discounted, English only as the language. That's... yeah, that game doesn't need any more words wasted on it. Core Hound Pups or 3 damage. Let's do 3 damage. This. Let's go ahead and attack once here. I think we can get away with that. TechRaptor has an article here. Pokemon Go releases legendary Pokemon into the wild for the first time. Which legendary Pokemon there? Let's see. Usually legendary Pokemon are regulated to high-level raid events found around the world at different gyms. 3 legendary trio, Lake Trio from the original Sinnoh region, Azelf, Mesprit, and Uxie can be found out in the normal game world without needing to complete a raid at all. Interesting. I guess eventually this is what they would have to do, because they're just going to have to constantly add more characters to Pokemon Go. They may even get to a point where they're having to add quicker than the Pokemon game series adds characters to just maintain things. The same is true for the game I'm playing on my phone, Destiny Child, is that game really fails to entertain anybody the second that they stop adding characters to it. So they added 3 characters based on a anime, I think it's called Komi Friends. These humanoid animal creatures which run around this park and do simplistic activities. It's more of a kid show than anything. If I can just do 2 more damage. Oh man, if I hadn't spent two mana there, I could have played this and had a 50-50 chance of winning. So yeah, Destiny Child always doing an event of some sort. The event they're doing right now is gonna last, I think, a month though, so they're kind of stretching it out. But with every event, there is at least 1 new card, 1 new character, and with every character, those are the gacha, the collectibles of the game. And Pokemon Go is basically a gacha game with some other elements added on top of it. And as soon as you stop adding things to collect there, there's nothing to do. Let's see. Moving on, as this game is still going on and is slowed down immensely. Dreams Early Access first major update is due out in May. Non-motion controls are in the works. I feel like Dreams is going to be dead on arrival. I think there's nothing that's actually entertaining or fun there. And this is another example, in my opinion, of the mainstream video game media, which is a phrase I haven't had to say in a couple of days, and I'm kind of glad for that. I think the mainstream video game media, though, is probably doing favors to the developers by publishing articles about it and trying it out. But even they aren't super hyped about for Dreams, this non-game game development software that clearly should have never been greenlit. It's just way too wild and way too out there concept. So yeah, I have very little confidence in Dreams. In the same way I really was never hyped on Anthem, and then Anthem came out and it was just nothing, just a generic game. Alright, so now that we finally got the Tavern Brawl done, we can now just focus on, I'm gonna try Paladin victories and start there. So a custom paladin, ranked play. Let's get in here. Let's see. We already talked about Epic buying Psionics, the creators of Rocket League. So, was there something else here? I'm looking at Epic's Twitter feed because I opened it for some reason. Yeah, I'm scrolling down this Twitter feed. There is, I guess, a slightly interesting thing they're doing on the Epic Store worth mentioning. If you pre-purchase The Sinking City from the Epic Games Store, you will get Sherlock Holmes and the Devil's Daughter for free. This was probably one of the better Sherlock Holmes games, which is damning with very faint praise because the Sherlock Holmes games in general have all very much sucked. And so getting it for free is not much of an incentive. And I don't think too many people who are interested in The Sinking City would even care about care about Sherlock Holmes and the Devil's Daughter. Nobody really cared about it when it came out. It was a little buggy. I think that's the thing I wanted to talk about. Otherwise, Epic's Twitter feed is just a collection of them promoting games that are coming out to the Epic Store. Like on April 24th, they had a Borderlands 3 1-week calendar. So either right now you can get Borderlands 3 on the Epic Store, or tomorrow. Wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing a lot of people on Twitch and YouTube playing Borderlands 3 as quickly as possible. I wouldn't be surprised if coverage for the game is pretty much a flash in the pan, but it will go on for a while. It should really go on for a while.
Reporting for duty. I live.
Hey, catch!
There we go. Next we have a game on Steam called P-Tunes Party, which, let's see, it looks like it's a couple of party games. Maybe it's based off a mobile game. It looks like it might be a Mario Party clone. The problem I'm seeing here is it seems like these are some pretty simplistic and probably not varied enough Mario Party games. And of course it probably is also a multiplayer only game, so I'm out because of that. $19.99, it says as single player. It says it's coming out for PS4 also. Interesting. 3 game modes, 4 boards, 4 cups, 28 mini games. That's asking quite a lot for $20 compared to a Mario Party. And then if we look at the studio, they haven't made anything else. I'm being extremely generous today, I'll put this on the fall list, but yeah, there's definitely a lack of content in that. You needed 128 minigames, you needed about 16 boards, you needed probably 9 different gameplay styles of slight variations. And a lot more variety in general. Let's see. Well,
For justice.
just keep on doing this, I guess. I just need victories today. Next we have a game on Steam called U-Boat that is just slightly missing polish, but it is rated mostly positive. Not sure I'd really want to play a game where you're playing a character on a submarine or controlling a submarine crew in total. It feels like a lot of the game would be played looking at this angle, but then it feels like there's also way too many instances of this happening too, where I imagine each of these dials means something and you'd have to learn it. But then you also have the game looking from this angle and you're seeing characters you control, then the game from this angle where it's from the sky. Seems like you're going all over the place in different perspectives.
For justice. Follow the rules.
Let's go ahead and play that. And go and play that.
Move quickly.
Yeah. But U-boat is, I guess, mostly positive. Again, I have no, I have no backbone today. Clearly, I've been feeling it all day. It's just like, yeah, if there's any excuse whatsoever, I will put it on the fall list and not make a decision because I just don't want to make decisions. I think I gotta put my foot down on U-boat. I see a lot of things in the video and the screenshots that don't interest me, so I'm gonna say no to it. Let's see. This, and then
Got
this,
something to hide?
For justice.
this, and then hopefully this is enough. TechCraft has an article here, Fade the Silence Review, Tundra Tedium. I think we may have already even seen this article. Fade the Silence on those two screenshots don't interest me, and they gave it a 5.0 average. Like, pros are a potentially interesting world, while the cons are clunky, underwhelming combat, wonky voice acting, frustrating, repeating way too many ideas in the game. Alright. Let's do this. Let's do this.
Reporting for duty.
Show me!
Kill this. 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 I'm still gonna lose. I managed to lose, eh? Next week, TechRaptor has an article, Ghost Giant Review, Big Old Ghost. This might be an interesting game, but it looks like it's VR if I was to guess. Looks like you're overlooking a small world, solving puzzles. So yeah, it's a PlayStation VR game only. They gave it an 8.5 grade. Ghost Giant's fun, puzzles, and lovely story are well worth experiencing for anyone who may have access to PlayStation VR. Pros are a touching story, fun puzzles, entertaining interactions, and interesting world. Cons are the puzzles are too easy sometimes, and there are occasional glitches. So, okay, yeah, if you have PSVR, check out Ghost Giant. Next, TechRaptor has an article, id Software classic shooters have been ported to iOS and tvOS. So, is that Doom and Wolfenstein? Doom iOS is available for dedicated players. Let's see. Let's trade out these two. Does it also include Wolfenstein OS? Yeah, Wolfenstein 3D and Doom have been ported. Well, no, they were brought to iOS App Store. However, the ports were no longer supported since 2014. In 2017, the iOS version 10.3 officially stopped supporting any apps based on the deprecated 32-bit architecture. So those games, like mini-games, got removed. And so he's working on Doom iOS, Doom 3 iOS, Quake iOS, Quake 2 iOS, Quake 3 iOS, and Wolfenstein 3D iOS. Interesting. So.
I don't have enough mana.
Barely made it in time there. Interesting little hack story here as they're porting those to iOS, which almost every platform gets Doom ported to it, so no surprising that that would happen here. You'd think Apple would want for that to happen more officially so those games could easily be listed and sold on the store. So I wouldn't be surprised if the unofficial ports get blocked or removed in favor of official ports that eventually come out if id Software cares enough about it, which would be if Bethesda cares about it.
The light protects.
Alright,
For justice.
attack here, and jump. Next we have a game on Steam called Herald of Depths. This looks like it's basically a text-based roguelike game. It fails the visual appeal test by quite a lot, so I'm not interested in it. It's discounted to 89 cents. English is its only language. So yeah, that's not worth mentioning anymore. I still have a ton of games, and I'm probably gonna get all of the daily quests done and just give up on the games coverage and leave some for Friday because there's just a lot. A really large amount of games to come out. I don't know why today. Not very many Japanese games because it's Golden Week, and I was wondering about that, and I eventually resolved to suspect that we wouldn't see any really Japanese games this week. But in the meantime, a bunch of other games have taken up the spot, and a lot of them are definitely not high quality products. For example, this next game on Steam is called Block Run, and clearly this is a low effort physics based infinite runner. Seems like you have a bit of hover too when you go off the edge while running, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. This is $1.99 no discount. Tabletop Simulator is getting an update, and we'll see that article eventually. But yeah, Block Run. Not quality product, not worth mentioning any further. Let's see. So we need to win 2 more games with Paladin. And then, after we do that, we need to play a bunch of Warlock cards. And so there's a lot to do. Let's keep playing. CheckRaptor has an article here. Eden Rising Supremacy, a game I don't recognize. It's going to have a free-to-play version at launch. Good for it, I guess. This is kind of a hype article on something that's not even out yet. I don't think it deserves any more coverage than that. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam here called Bat Hotel, which I didn't look at in the first place, and it looks like this is worse than most low-effort anime games. It is tagged with nudity here, so okay, let's be a little careful here. 59 cents, terrible animation. Seems like you're just clicking on the bats as there's an anime girl in the background, and terribly drawn, terribly proportioned, way too thin waist, way too large bust size characters here. Usually they're not even this bad. Usually they just steal art, or it seems like they steal art. But this seems like somebody actually tried to make some original content and realized that they couldn't do it to a level of quality. Again, don't get tricked by this game. You would probably have to be a pretty big sucker to look at this game, Bat Hotel, and think that's something worth purchasing, even for 59 cents. Yeah, don't get tricked on this low quality stuff. Alright, I'm gonna just play this and then return. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article here. 2 Cops, 1 Body, a twin stick shooter twin cop launches May 10th. This looks weird, certainly. Let's watch this trailer and see what happens there. It's just a twin stick top-down shooter with some weirdness added to it for silliness sake. Yeah, I don't see anything super special here. Maybe you have to play it with 2 people. That might be a bit of a change.
Move quickly. The battle.
But yeah, that game's available May 10th, Twin Cop. If you're interested in it, I wouldn't be. Next, we have a game on Steam here called Strategic Mind: The Pacific, which looks like a strategy hex grid game. Doesn't look terrible. It might be a mobile port. This is another case where I think I'm just gonna have to put my foot down. It's early access, $14.99, English and Russian, which seems like an odd choice. Also, I just have so little interest in playing a strategic game based on military actions in the Pacific, which is what I assume what it is, that even if it is a good game, it's really not a game for me.
Protects me.
The battle.
Let's see. So yeah, I'm not gonna put that on the follow list. I'm slowly gaining confidence, I guess, as we continue to stream. As far as what games I want to have on the wish list and what games I don't. Alright, let's give him a little. What was that now? Never surrender and redemption.
Show me.
I fight.
Let's see. Gamatsu has an article here. Root Letter Last Answer is coming to the West for PS4, Switch, and PC in 2019. But they're localizing it in a weird way because here you have the anime style on it, and then I think for this visual novel they're changing. Well, apparently they're just adding a live action mode. I thought they were changing it. So there's a new live action mode. Turn on the live action mode from the title screen at any time while playing to see the locations and residents come to life. So they probably spent way too much money doing that to change from an animation sequence to live action, but maybe it would be cheaper to do that after the fact, after the game had already been animated or basically not animated. If it was just a bunch of stills, maybe it is cheaper to go have a production team film live action footage than it is to say put it in live 2D. But yeah, this looks like this is already animated, so it's a weird experiment on will people want to play the game in the anime style or will people want to play this visual novel in the live action stuff. I've never really seen, running out of time here,
Got something to hide.
I've really never seen any
Show me.
like major amount of interest
I fight.
in visual novels in a live action format. So if Root Letter Last Answer somehow sold really well because of that feature, or that feature was very well received, we could see a whole new thing happen in a lot of visual novels, and there definitely are thousands if not millions of visual novels out there. Imagine some of the bigger ones like Conad getting new modes with live action characters. The weird thing here though is I think having Japanese characters animated be replaced with Japanese actors probably doesn't localize it enough for people who would have a problem with the animated section in the first place. Like, you are going to have to start approaching, if you were trying to get it to be more popular in the West, and you think you need to take the Japanese part out of a Japanese visual novel, you're going to end up with something like the Netflix Death Note movies, or the Dragon Ball Western movie that was made, where it's just people that don't have a clue try to localize things where it makes no sense at all, and set things in America for no reason whatsoever. So that there could be some horrific translations and localizations that would happen if that is the goal. But I definitely have to say good on them for experimenting. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. Opus Collection sets course for the Nintendo Switch, arriving May 28th. The Opus Collection is Opus The Day We Found Earth and Opus The Rocket of Whispers. Two kind of, I think they're more RPG visual novel type things. Type games. I don't think they're super popular, but it's just more of the eShop cheap games coming out. Yeah. Maybe I should get around to playing the Opus games. I know they're on Steam, and heck, I might already own them. But they really didn't catch my attention. Alright, so we need one more victory, and then we need to play a bunch of Warlock cards. And we have a ton of games to look at still on Steam. And this page doesn't want to load. So
I must protect the wild.
let's move on to the next one. Let's see, if I can just trade. Next, we have a game on Steam called Zen Chess Maiden 4. This looks like it is a chess puzzle game, a single-screen Unity game, and probably not that interesting. Chess.com had these puzzles where you were supposed to win in 4 moves or win in a certain number of moves, but separating that out to its own game and then selling it for 79 cents discounted, particularly when you have several other games, Maiden 2, Maiden 1, Maiden 3, so they've been working their way apparently up to the 4th iteration of this game. Yeah, these are low effort games, very low effort games. Gamatsu has an article here. The Wonder Boy the Dragon's Trap is coming to iOS and Android on May 30th. It'll be interesting to see how well that would play, but I imagine you would have to pay for it because this is not really a free type of game. So I don't know how well that would play on a cell phone after you pay what could be as high as $20. I wouldn't be surprised for this Wonder Boy 3 remake. Here we can see that the developer on Steam is flooding Steam with the exact same game. So Mate in 3 also released at the exact same time as Mate in 4 was, and so was Mate in 2. And I'll just go to the next page. Apparently Mate in 1 wasn't released at the same time. Let's see. This
The light protects me.
in the turn. Tech Raptor has an article here. NBC Universal makes a copyright claims on Beat Saber songs. In a recent episode of The Tonight Show, Jimmy Fallon showed off the VR game Beat Saber. He, along with the guest Brie Larson of Captain Marvel and Avengers Endgame, played a few rounds of the chart for $100 bills and Escape. Let's see. Back in February, developer Beat Saber Beat Game Studio announced they'd be turning off Content ID for all of the initial Beat Saber tracks, including $100 bills and Escape. Those are the 2 songs, I guess. They wanted to support the community and allow players to get it. Without Content ID enabled for these songs, there should not have been anything for the check for copyrighted materials to pick up and flag. Well, I imagine when they say they were turning off Content ID, they were just saying track it or hide it in the background. But perhaps they actually did remove it from the Content ID system, which would have been a mistake, frankly. It would have been much better for them to say, yes, these are our songs and we own the copyright to them, because they assumedly do, but we're not going to take any monetization from them. Users started tweeting on the official Beat Saber Twitter account, and the Twitter account said that it was something they could fix. It was not something that they could fix. Let's see. As of this writing, Beat Game Studio has said that there should not be any further claims on $100 bills, but there's no mention on the status of the claims for Escape. They asked that any further claims be reported to them via Twitter. It is unknown at this time if NBC Universal was actively flagging video content containing the music, or if it was an automated check based on the audio from the episode of The Tonight Show. It was almost certainly an audio check based on The Tonight Show. But this is a fine example of how they use automated systems outside of the YouTube content automated system to claim things that they don't have any rights to. They use the YouTube Content ID system in abusive ways to claim things that they don't use to. NBC, almost certainly one of the worst claimers out of the top 100 worst claimers on YouTube. For a video game streamer, for the most part, you won't see too many NBC Universal claims, but But when you have instances of Jimmy Fallon, for instance, broadcasting and claiming things he doesn't have the right to for corporate benefit and for monetary purposes, it's sleazy looking, to say the least. And inherently, that is the reason why, that on top of the fact that I'm tone deaf, it's a good reason why I wouldn't really want to play too many popular music games. Anything with music in it has a much higher tendency to get flagged on YouTube. Video game music tends to be alright, but not always. Moving on, Game Sutra has an article, Get a Job, Dream Harvest is hiring a technical game designer. That's in Brighton, England. Don't think there's anything else to really be said there. You can search that out if you feel you're qualified or want to look up more information. Let's see.
Follow the rules.
Let's do this.
Reporting justice.
And this. Let's see. Gematsu has an article. A Plague Tale: Innocence supports 4K resolution on the PS4 Pro and Xbox One X. NVIDIA Ansel on the PC. NVIDIA Ansel, I don't think has anything to do with resolution. No, I think that's just a screenshot tool that you get built into lots of modern NVIDIA games. And the 4K resolutions for the PS4 and Xbox Pro, PS4 Pro and Xbox One X are pseudo 4K, really. It's not a 4K native resolution by any means. This game, A Plague Tale: Innocence, might be a good game, it might be a bad game. It's kind of hard to tell at the moment, and we'll have to just wait till it comes out. Don't want to get super hyped on a game, particularly by its specs. One might take from an article like that if they're promoting the game and selling the game based on its visual specs, there's very possibly not that much gameplay content that's worth mentioning. Yeah. But yeah, we've seen and we will see as E3 happens a lot of hype and a lot of trailers and things promoting the high fidelity of the graphics quality of new games that are coming, and then by the time the games come out, people won't really care about the quality, or the quality won't be quite as good as it was promised to be, as it tends to be the case. Moving on, Gematsu has an article, Vanguard's Cold Soul story trailer. So, I haven't heard of this game, Vanguard's Cold Soul, so either it's not out, no, it's coming out to PC May 24th and the PS4 and Xbox One and Switch in Q3. So I've just kind of missed this game. It looks like it's a JRPG style game, and the trailer that I'm seeing is very, very comic book-esque, Viking-like characters, it looks like, but I bet the game barely looks anything like this when it actually shows some gameplay, which it won't in the story trailer. So yeah, story trailer, basically a hype trailer for a game that's not gonna be out yet. Let's just go ahead and play this. GameIndustry.biz has an article here, record-breaking year for Jagex with revenues of £92.8 million. The launch of the old-school RuneScape on mobile drives fourth consecutive year of growth. So I guess Jagex is the developer of RuneScape, which, okay, this is probably one of the few positive reports we've seen for a video game company this year. It's been not a great year, quite frankly, and I kind of called it. It felt like 2019 would be the year of bankruptcies and closures, and I still very much think that that is going to be the main stories we hear. I did not suspect that we would have so many stories coming out of just how awful the work environments inside of video game companies were. It's even a little surprising to me as somebody who wanted to be a video game developer and eventually realized that that would not be a career worth pursuing. But yeah, even to me, the amount of crunch and like hostile workforces and just unprofessionalism seems very, very high in the video game industry. I expected some of that, certainly, but I expected a lot more professionalism in general. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Valfaris, which looks like it's a platformer fighting game with pixel graphics. Its art style seems like it's a little all over the place.
Let me think.
I don't know if this is a case of me just being a wimp today and having no backbone. This looks good enough to deserve a follow. It's not even out, so I'll put it on the follow list even though it's not even out yet. Secret. Yes. And then do this. And end the turn. Let's see. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Ex-NetherRealm devs crunch and exploiting contractors was the studio norm. NetherRealm being the developers of Mortal Kombat 11. So the stories have gone, from my perspective, from a lot of people not really liking Mortal Kombat 11 for about 3 main reasons. And kind of oddly, Giant Bomb spent this week also saying they loved Mortal Kombat 11, which just really makes them feel out of line with what the people who actually buy video games, actual gamers, are reviewing the game as. But it does seem like, yeah, mainstream video game media seems to love the woke approach and just love the game in general, even if it isn't the wokeness of Mortal Kombat 11. Meanwhile, real people are not liking it for its microtransaction fill. But now the story gets added on that on top of the game not being that good, they also were exploiting contractors and enforcing ridiculous amounts of crunch for very little reason. Like, the only argument I could even see why there should be any crunch at NetherRealm is because they took on doing Injustice and Mortal Kombat when really their studio size probably was not big enough for 2 games to be developed simultaneously, and arguably maybe their NetherRealm was not big enough to even have enough employees to properly develop one game. That definitely feels true in Mortal Kombat 11's case. It feels like there's quite too few number of characters. Unfortunately, at this point, articles about crunch and what is a growing push by video game journalists to try and force, it feels like they're half trying to force the developers of games themselves to unionize. Like, a lot of this is just going to be the same story over and over again until something actually changes. And so it stops becoming news and it just becomes the norm until the story comes out that, oh, NetherRealm unionized, or any video game company in the United States actually unionized. If that never happens, and until that never happens, it's just going to be negative story after negative story after negative story for hate clicks and things like that, and it's not worth mentioning. It's not really news at this point. if I was running a general news site and I reported one horrendous business practice at a McDonald's, that might be news. But if I reported every single small exploitation or abuse that happens at any McDonald's anywhere, they're happening on a daily basis. It's so commonplace. It's not fair. It's not right, certainly, but it's not something that that the general public wants to really hear or can do anything about hearing it. The point of news, I would say, in part at least, is to inform people so they can make changes. If you're just informing somebody that something horrible has happened and they have no power to change it, you're just making people miserable for no reason. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Memorial Park of Hypoxia, and this looks like a low-effort asset flip game. In that same way, if I did pre-filter out a lot of these games, like, it really isn't news to show off a low-effort asset flip early access game that's $3.74. It's really not news to show this. I am perfectly happy if I had the extra time to filter through these and not show these type of games.
I'll never tell.
But this is really just a matter, in my case, of I don't have the time to do that. So we do our best to see it and then move forward. Next, we have a game on Steam called Viking Sisters, which just looks like this is a resource management study manager. We've seen a lot of these. Yeah, it's part of the Viking Brothers pack. Viking Brothers 5, and now Viking Sisters. So, took till the 6th game before they threw in the Viking Sisters. Whatever you take from that. $5.59 discounted. There's really no reason to be interested in this game, though. Secret. Next, we have a game on Steam called Heroes of Earth Invasion, which looks like a low-effort 3D first-person shooter game. I don't even know if you can call something that looked like this an asset flip game. It's just terrible looking. $6.69 English and Russian, 1 achievement. Well, almost certainly an achievement troll game. So, we now finally have gotten one daily quest done. We now need to just play 30 Warlock cards. So I'm hoping this Warlock deck has actual Warlock cards in it. And I still have plenty of games, so I'm going to try and burn through these pretty fast. We have a game on Steam called The 5-Day Tour in the Morgue. This is a asset flip horror game. Yeah, there's nothing graphically good enough to interest me. It's also a VR game for $1.19 and goes by an Asian name otherwise. So yeah, nothing there.
The forest fights back.
Your soul shall be mine.
Next, we have a game that's a bunch of Asian characters. The Lost We Lost. English language not supported. $3.39 discounted. Chinese game. This is probably a low-effort visual novel, if I was to guess. It might be a high-effort visual novel. Can't really tell because it's not in English. It's positive rated. And we'll just leave it at that. I think we probably are going to run into a chain of these of Chinese games, but let's see. Next we have a game called Summon of Asmodeus, which looks like it's a Castlevania-esque game. It's tagged nudity, so like just let's throw some nudity in there for no reason. $13.49. Summon of Asmodeus and Necromancy Emily's Escape. It's single player, it's English and Japanese full audio, so it's a Japanese game. This very well might be a case of a game that This game contains a lighter level of nudity and pornography and a certain level of violence. That's an interesting way to describe it. Third party EULA also. This is probably a low effort game that is got the nudity added in to try and sell it. And looking at the game, I bet there's just nothing here that's long enough or interesting enough to justify that, frankly. I would be very happy to see a Castlevania clone come out on Steam, considering how the Castlevania games I just covered on Steam are not particularly good. But yeah, this is not the way. We can look at this developer. The other two games, by the way, that they've made are mixed reviewed. This will be something that happens more and more. Absolutely. We will start to see instances of very low effort games selling on lewdness or selling on sex alone that in the old days would have been sold through Japan storefronts only. Now they're going to start coming to Steam as Steam Direct things, at least until people realize that they don't actually sell well. And once they realize that they don't sell well, then we'll probably start to see a political change in strategy. Next we have a game on Steam called Burning Land, which looks like it's a hex-based strategy game. It doesn't look particularly interesting, although this trailer seems to be all over the place and makes it look like a troll game, which very well it might be. It's early access for $19.99 in English only. Yeah, seems all over the place as far as what kind of style it's going for.
Stop harming me! Stop harming me!
Go.
That means
Why me? Why me?
Next we have a game on Steam called The High Score, which is a shoot 'em up game. Doesn't look particularly interesting though visually. Doesn't look like it's doing anything new. $3.99 with no discount. And a odd collection of English, French, Spanish from Spain, and Chinese, simplified Chinese as the language options. Yep, there's definitely nothing interesting here. The name is a low effort name too.
What shall we hunt?
Maybe we're seeing slightly more Chinese games coming out because of Japanese Golden Week. Maybe this is the week that, since that wouldn't be a holiday in China, this might be the week that the Chinese publishers and developers go, oh well, we'll have less competition, let's release this week. So, decent thought at least. Probably won't actually work, but it's better than trying nothing. Next we have a game with Asian characters called Puzzled Heroes. It doesn't look like it's an RPG Maker game, it just kind of looks like it's an RPG with some chibi art characters. Doesn't look terrible. Let's see, it's $10.19. Apparently English and Chinese. It doesn't look terrible, it just doesn't look good enough, and anytime I see a screen like this, that's too much text on screen. Say it's a traditional strategic role-playing game, players. It's rated mostly positive by 11 reviews. Well, I don't know, I guess I'll be generous and give this a follow too, just to see what possibly could be the outcome there. I'm definitely being way too generous here. Let's see. I'm trying to debate whether this game tagged with sexual content is viewable or not. Family friendly. I think we can get through it. So this is game EILF, which has a few screenshots, I suspect, of real people, and then it's just match the pictures on the side. So all the game is really happening over here, and then you're just seeing pictures of people who apparently have taken rogue pictures on the street. It's free to play, and then there's a weapon pack DLC. It's English only. I don't know why you would make a play lewd game like this, other than possibly to get positive reviews for your next game that you release. Yeah, the other games this developer has made is called Author Clicker, so it's just a low effort clicker game. Yeah, there's some.
Time's up. Let's do this.
Let's see if we can draw a card and move forward. Play more wizard cards, warlock cards. Yeah, I really don't know how to feel about more and more games going with real world stills, real world video, full motion video style games. I love full motion video games in their small niche category of point and click adventures, but if we saw a game and it was just a live action Master Chief for the entirety of the game, that would feel weird. At least a little bit weird to me. But I might be approaching an old man get off my lawn argument at a certain point too, because if a whole new generation of video games are just based on rotoscoping or recording actors, real world actors, that might be the way that games eventually go. I'd kind of question that, but it's possible.
I'll get right on.
Why do you call?
Next we have a game on Steam called the Copper Canyon Shootout, which looks like it's a VR game where you're fighting a robot in the West. It requires VR. It's $14.99. English only is the language. Are any of these video screens going to load up? Let's see. Let's just watch a video then. So yeah, it seems pretty fast paced and fine as a VR game. In fact, it seems pretty good, so I'm gonna put this on the full list. And I don't even think I'm wrong on this call. I think this, if you are gonna play one stand in one place and shoot guns VR game, this might be the one to play.
The light protects me.
Because there's a level of polish on that. Next we have a game on Steam called BitLogic, a cyberpunk arcade adventure. Looks like it's a 8-bit platformer with some dark screenshot syndrome. I haven't had to say dark screenshot syndrome today so far. $6.99. English and Spanish from Spain. It just fails the visual test. It's just not visually attractive enough to make it to the follow list.